see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan McClurg and Nick Morgasen. Hello again, my friends. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the final week, full week of June, and our final show for the month of June, already halfway to the end of the year, if you can believe it, folks. But a massive show planned for you here, as always, here on Press Row, live across the Into the Bench Network on YouTube and Twitter. Of course, he's Nick Morgasen. I'm Callan McClurg, joining you today on a beautiful Wednesday, June the 24th, 2026. Mr. Morgasen, great to see you as always, my friend. How are we doing today?
I'm good, man. This is going to be quite a show because part of it got thwarted in the process about 2 hours before the show got underway. But I'm doing good. We have a lot of projects coming up across this network, so make sure you listen to our ETB weeklies at the end of every hour. But before we get into all that, make sure you follow the show on social media at Press Row ETB, Twitter, Instagram, and hopefully future TikTok. At Press Row ETB. Follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at ETB Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. 1,127 subscribers and counting. So please go hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, go do all that jazz. Yes, that's a SpongeBob reference. And
Jazz.
And make sure you stay afloat of everything that we are doing. But this show got turned on its head quite quickly in the last couple hours. And I love that about this show because we get to react to news. And I love that this all our shows are live. Because
by the way, how much do you think Nick and Johnny love that MTGP is now live because of how they got hosed on like 2 different occasions in 2 weeks when they would finish the recording that news broke when the show went off the air?
Oh, I'm sure that it's a heck of a lot better for them now. But now and actually, I just came across more breaking news. So we're going to have a ton of breaking news right off the top of the show. But before we do all that, let's talk about what's coming up on today's show. So the main topic originally was going to be the Meadowlark drama, Meadowlark Media drama, which we will get to. Don't you worry. We will spend a ton of time. We blocked that out for almost, 2.5 segments? Almost?
Yes. I think our first 3 segments, yes.
So we will get there. Don't you worry. But we just had a massive bombshell drop out of the New York Times, The Athletic, and it involves the Dianna Russini, Mike Vrabel, and yes, we are very tired of this story by now. But guys, you're a media show. You're supposed to cover this every freaking second of your entire lives. No. We like covering these stories. Don't get that twisted. But it becomes a time when it becomes, and I'm going to steal a terminology you say all the time, grasping of straws.
Yes.
Slightly. But in this case, I actually think they did a good job on the timeline. And originally I said, let's wait and see. I think we might be coming to a verdict at this point.
Yeah, very soon, hopefully. I think it feels that way, yes.
But before we do all that, so we're going to do the Meadowlark drama. We're going to talk about the New York Times story that just broke today, a couple hours ago. Obviously, Craig Carton versus Dan Le Batard. You're going to hear some audio from the Le Batard show, which we played on ETB Sports the other day, or yesterday, I should say. And it's a little below the belt, if you ask me. I have no problem if you want to call someone a hack, whatever, but don't go below the belt when it becomes personal. That's a whole different issue. We'll get into the World Cup ratings, which, by the way, have been very good, believe it or not.
And only going to be better over the next 4 days with 24 games in 4 days, including 6 games a day in the same time slot starting at noon this afternoon Pacific time.
Heavy day the next 2 days.
Yes.
And ETP is probably going to have a field day, too.
We will have a field day after we recap Team USA Turkey tomorrow night on Thursday.
So you'll get all that. What else do we have today? We also have Josh Hokett's comments from the UFC White House card, which...
Ouch.
He needs to be cut by the UFC. At least that's how I feel about it. But we'll get into that. Podcast drama also with Netflix. The ratings have started to slip out. They're not good. Gee, shocker. What a surprise.
Color me shocked.
Apparently Dan Hurley is pitching a Yukon Duke showdown at the White House because of USC Freedom 250.
Oh, okay.
Max Kellerman calls out all the haters to Victor Wembanyama, which it's very rare I agree with Max Kellerman, but I think he's right in this scenario. We just put out a clip today from the last episode of Press Row, which people are already dogging me, which what else is new? Saying that I am making things up, whatever.
And here people only dog me about the NFL, which makes total sense.
Right.
Football in general.
We'll also get into Linda Cohn retiring. I actually had the chance to interview Linda Cohn years ago when she just broke the record, or not even a record. She hit the milestone of 5,000 sports centers. By the way, I don't think anyone's breaking her record.
No way.
That's an incredible record to have. Hey, you hold a world record for what? Oh, I just host the most sports centers in the history of ESPN.
Come on, Guinness, where's my world record?
No brag. Obviously, we'll get into Alexi Lawless and the drama that's been going on at the World Cup. The World Cup has been good for the most part, except for Alexi Lawless.
Yes.
And also that weird interaction between him and Zlatan.
Yeah.
In the studio, which you and I laughed at. We laughed, but it was a little awkward to say the least. But all right, let's get underway. Where are we?
I guess actually, Nick, before we get to the bombshell, we do though, and I think it's only fair that we do so. But you folks may remember that we had David Sampson, the longtime former baseball executive of the Montreal Expos and the Florida and Miami Marlins, join us to talk all things about baseball, the Dodgers, the Padres, and of course the lockout a few months ago. And David slipped in a mention that he doesn't really do a lot of podcast appearances for platforms not named his own or his own show with Pablo Torre and then with his own program. And David made the mention, though, that his daughter had been sick. And sadly, David made a very heartbreaking announcement made at about 7 a.m. this morning Pacific time, saying in part on Twitter that yesterday his daughter had passed away peacefully after a 9-month and 11-day fight against one of the cruelest diseases I've ever seen up close after being diagnosed with brain cancer, but mainly glioblastoma. I have felt all of your concern and love for these months and was not ready to be any more specific than I was. She was a 28-year-old young woman who lived deeply and who was impossible to describe in 280 characters. While her life got stolen from her, she handled these months with courage, poise, and resolve. And all I want is for no family to feel what we feel today and for no young person to suffer the way she did. In lieu of flowers, if you are moved to make a memorial gift, please consider her foundation or her fund that you can go and check out. And I just checked, Nick. They've already raised over $59,000 for David Sampson's family. So wishing David and the Sampson family all the best for what they've gone through.
I mean, you and I can't fully relate to that because we don't have kids. We're not married. We don't have that whole situation. But I feel awful for him. Like, I feel really bad. Like, he's been very public about it. Hasn't been able to do a full show schedule for his show because he's been running back. I think he's in New York. I think he told us. And,
I think so.
And he was running back and forth to the city, taking care of his daughter. And that's a tough situation, man. Like, your kid is 28 years old, going through a cancer diagnosis, which what's sad about that is she had something that was non-curable, or at least
Right.
there's no cure. And I think, and I've said this before, technology is getting better over the years where we're starting to find maybe not cures, but we're keeping people alive a lot longer than they used to when they would get these horrible diseases.
For sure.
And by the way, I know he gets a bad rap because of his personality. Believe it or not, when you and I actually did the interview with him, I did not see that.
Not at all.
The guy actually cares about life. He cares about his job. He wants to educate the industry like what we do on this show. We want to educate. Are we going to have a little bit of opinion on topics from time to time? Sure. But
Of course.
I thought that was one of the more incredible interviews we did this year on the show. He was candid about baseball. He was candid that there probably will be a lockout. He even explained to us the whole what's it called with putting money to the side for players, deferment, that you actually have to put it in a private account in a sense. And the guy is an intelligent guy, and heart just breaks for the man. Like,
absolutely.
There's not much more I can really say, but I pray for his family. And he gets a bad rap because he's involved in the Le Batard show drama. And sometimes, and this is the problem partially, you and I have talked about this before, where sometimes you get wrapped in something,
right?
And you get unnecessarily blamed for things. Now, I don't know.
Guilty by association.
I don't know how heavily involved he is with Meadowlark from the executive standpoint. I don't think he is. I think he consults for Le Batard and helps him do stuff. But leave the man alone today, please. Don't attack the guy while he's going through the grieving process, the death of his 28-year-old daughter. Please, that's just not right. It's not.
Yeah, and I think so far I haven't seen a whole lot of banter yet regarding that whole entire ordeal at this rate, which, hopefully, will hold up for the next, 2 to 3 days, hopefully, to let David and his family, grieve properly, what have you. And again, if you do want to find out more information, folks, we actually have reposted on the Press Row ETB account our own statement for David's family, where you can find David's tweet, and you can also go and find the link, though, to help if you would like to to donate to the fund, which again is already over $59,000. So there are people with hearts out there that want to support the cause.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, hey, there's obviously people who understand what he's going through, and you know what? Have a heart. That's all I ask for in this life when someone dies. Callan, I went through it in December this past year. And it's not easy in a grieving process. Now,
no way, no how. Absolutely not.
Now, I'm a little awkward when it comes to a grieving process, when it comes to people passing away. I don't get full emotions when I grieve. It's very odd in that way. I don't know if you're that way or up, or when you're in a grieving process. How are you like that or not like that, or what?
Man, and we'll get to the actual show here, folks, in a few minutes. I just wanted to spend some time on this, though. I mean, grieving process, and I don't know if it was because, Nick, I was, I played sports for 15 years and stuff, and with the job I have, you really aren't, I wouldn't say allowed to show your emotions when stuff happens, and I've, have been a part of having to, read those very difficult things when a franchise loses a player. I've sat through, I think, 2 of them in my, at least 2 that I can recall at the top of my head, that the night of a Gulls game that a member of the San Diego Sockers, the indoor soccer team I used to work for, was killed in a car crash like half an hour before the game started of this Gulls game I was working. And the team, frantically said, "Hey, did you hear the news about, this player?" I'm like, "I know what happened." They said, "Well, he just was killed in a car crash. Would you like for us to do a moment of silence?" And I'm like, "Sure." You might as well, because they're a fellow tenant of the arena. The first game that the team played after his passing was very emotional. That I wasn't doing PA for it, though, but you could just feel like the somber mood of the building. And the team ended up losing in like the last second of gameplay, and it like really even hurt that much more. And then a couple years ago, we had a player from the Gulls and the Ducks who was killed in a motorcycle crash, and he was part of the first team that came here in 2015 from Norfolk. And the team had decals on their helmet for his passing, and there was a, I had to make the read the, moment of silence read. And, those I think are probably the ones that always stay with me, Nick, because when you have to do those, man, those really, really suck. And I think the worst one, I think, was there was a player for the Edmonton Oilers named Colby Cave, who also passed away, I want to say, from a similar form of brain cancer, I think, or cancer. And he passed during the pandemic of our season. During the season, like I think either before the season started or what have you. And the Condors played their first game of the year against the Gulls in Irvine. And the team thought it was a very, very, and we as the Gulls, the Condors have been a rival of ours for 30 years. But even we're like, we need to do a moment of silence. And the Condors were very, very appreciative of it and, and what have you. And I think the last one I can recall real quick was when the Humboldt Broncos bus crash happened in 2015 or 2014, 2015 or 16. And I wrote a Substack about this. I think it marks 10 years roughly, if not 9 years that it's happened. And I remember, Nick, the scenes around every NHL arena, every AHL arena, every ECHL arena, every hockey arena, how that happened and how teams that hated each other. We played Ontario, who's our main rival because they're the Kings affiliate. I remember after making the read for the moment of silence, I look out, Nick. Here's every player and every coach around the center circle alternating, Gulls player, Rain player, Gulls player, Rain player, like holding their team, like holding the next guy's shoulder or, consoling with them. And last one for me, when Johnny Gaudreau and his brother were killed. And that was a league-wide thing that we also did the first game of the year. And I remember that after I, said thank you, you have a whole entire arena. I'm getting choked up right now making that, saying that you feel the arena, lose their mind, cheering for Johnny and for Matthew. And it's just like, it really, I think, shows us how tight-knit the sports community can be, even for us as a media show. And we're going to talk about some sleazy stuff here in a few minutes here, but that it goes beyond the box score and beyond the games of play. And I think I'll leave it at that for where it is. But believe me, making those announcements, man, those are some of the most difficult ones you have to get through. And probably because I've been wired, as you said, about the grieving process, you're not like, what's been said about, celebrating home runs, but like, you're not allowed to show your emotions when it comes to like tragedy, and you just have to, get through it and play the game, what have you, and so on and so forth and whatnot. But definitely this is a day that David Samson needs the support from the sporting community across the board.
Yeah. I mean, you just said it. We talk about the tough processes of the media and teams and going inside boardrooms in the office, but there's emotions, there's feelings, there's not everything is black and white, as they say. There's all different colors that we see when we're looking at stuff. And you know what? People need to understand that there is reality in life. And I don't mean the fake reality you see on TV. I mean that reality exists, life exists, and not everything is a utopian society that we live in. So just
and real quick, I'll make one more mention here, and then we'll get moving with the show. During that same year that we were in Irvine, playing the COVID year, my mom suffered a stroke Valentine's Day of 2021. And I was not home at the time because I was working that game. So my dad had to rush her that ER and stuff. And I remember when she finally did come home 3 days later, I had put out an email to every employer I had saying, hey, just letting you know if this has happened at home and there might be some times where I might need to not show up for work. Instantaneously, Nick, every boss fired back. How can we help you guys out? We'll send you DoorDash gift cards. We'll do this. We'll do that. Friends of ours, sent care packages of like, socks, blankets, board games, puzzles, to help out with the cause. Like that really does further show like how people rally around people during their own struggles that they've had, like we've seen with David Sampson and that fundraiser getting nearly $60,000 already.
I mean, not that I really want to. Again, I'll mention this briefly because then we really got to get moving. Is when my dad was in the car accident I told you about. I was in 3rd grade when that happened. I'm 33 years old now. Okay. That changed my life forever. I couldn't do anything. Not his fault, by the way. Let me be very clear about that.
Of course.
Because stupid drivers out here on our main roads, because we have a couple of main roads right by us over here. Because of that moron, my life changed forever.
Right.
I couldn't do the field days with my father. I couldn't do what most father-sons were able to do growing up. Life happens, man. You can't stop it. You have to deal with the ups and the downs of life. And I know I'm sounding a little like I'm preaching at the top of the hill, but life happens. And
Oh yeah.
like I've learned to make the best of it. We do what we can do. My dad and I have traveled to 12 or 13 MLB stadiums around the country. And we've gotten to do that stuff. But there's been the ups and the downs. It's going to all the doctors, going to the New York City doctors, having to get there hours upon hours on end. So just be sympathetic is what I ask as a society when it comes to these things. Because unfortunately, it could happen to you someday.
Right.
And people sometimes, if you're sympathetic for other people, they will be sympathetic to you.
For sure.
In that regard. So you pay the deed, someone will pay the deed back for you. Okay. Now we got to get into the drama of the show.
And here we go.
So the New York Times bombshell on Dianna Russini has officially dropped. And this is quite an article from the New York Times and The Athletic. Callan and I have been discussing this for, God, how long has it been? Months. All the way back to, I would say, February, when we first started hearing about it, into March, and then April when it officially came down the pike. And now we have some timeline to really develop here. And I don't know if you've had a chance to pull the article up yet.
I tried pulling it up, Nick, and apparently now they put it back behind a paywall, it looks like.
Well, I kept it up, thank God, so I'm able to still read it.
Yeah, I can't check it out now, sadly.
I learned my lesson that when I opened an article that they say is clickable, not to unclick it out. But the first line of the entire article says Dianna Russini had been busted. That's never a good...
We're already off to a flying start, it sounds like.
And the name of the article is Dianna Russini was an NFL insider. Was she also out of bounds? So here's my first, before even touching the article itself. So the New York Times, The Athletic, but the New York Times owns The Athletic. Big distinction, by the way, just so people understand. Why are they writing a hit piece? I don't know. Some people will call it a hit piece. Some people will call it journalistic timelining. But why are you writing a piece knowing that your company is investigating this still?
Yeah, that's the problem, I think, right off the bat, I kind of have with this whole thing. Now, again, I try to pull up the article, and they put it behind a paywall, sadly, so I really can't speak on the matter at hand too much. But, I mean, could it be a mixture of both? Is it a hit job? Is it an inside job? Is it this? Is it that? Or is it putting together a timeline via investigating? Probably. But I think the problem, Nick, I think a lot of people would still have is we were all taught to believe during government class or law class, you can't do much until the investigation's actually over with, not while it's still active.
Yeah, but this is even worse because it's their own, like, you know how they say, like, when you write a letter on your own letterhead, that's your responsibility to be...
Correct.
This is on their own site that they're writing an article.
Which I think is puzzling because, I mean, I would expect this coming from like ESPN maybe,
Page 6.
or Fox, Page 6, TMZ, but not Not like doing self-sabotage here if you're the New York Times writing this out on your own platforms.
So we're not going to read the whole article because, by the way, this is like a
Lengthy.
feature. It's like a feature. It's like
Piece, yeah.
It's like 4,000 to 5,000 words. But there is some spots which you and I have been going through this timeline like a detective in the FBI, trying to find all
Okay,
the.
Inspector Gadget.
It's what but it feels like that. We've been
Yeah.
literally we've done how many bonus shows on this? Like
At least 3. We had Chrissy Freud come on to talk about this. We had Tony Farmer come and talk about this with us as well over the past several weeks.
And by the way, shout out to Chrissy Freud. I thought she was an incredible
Bravo.
guest last
Love to have
week.
her back on again as time goes on. She was awesome.
And Chrissy, if you're listening, I have a lot more respect for you now
Thank you very much.
as a person because you changed my mind in a lot of things. See, I can be respectful. Callan knows I didn't like the way she went about things going up to that point.
And I think though when you actually hear it from the horse's mouth, as away from what we heard with the Howard Eskin interview and how she came on here, I don't think. I mean, maybe she kind of buttoned down a little bit, but still though she wasn't willing though to not still attack the story. Where I think though, Nick, as we dig into the story, Chrissy Freud may have been right about Dianna Russini the whole damn time.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I have a lot of respect for her because she came in. Now, was she still being a little mysterious?
Sure.
Over the names, which maybe she should just say she doesn't know anything rather than just giving initials and names, but that's neither here nor there. So this goes, according to this story, this goes all the way back to January. Okay.
So 6 months ago.
And it says it was January. Miss Russini, then the star NFL reporter. First of all, journalism lesson 101.
Don't be doing that.
Well, okay, but you shouldn't be giving opinion in a long feature piece. And there's a lot of that.
Ken Rosenthal.
Yeah, and I'm not a journalist, but I understand how the media works. I took a media law class. I took a lot of these classes, so I know how a lot of what you can say and what you're not supposed to say. So it says the then star NFL reporter for the Athletic, a sports publication owned by the New York Times. They have to say that right up front.
Put that disclaimer. And I think the best example of that, Nick, is all of the ABC affiliates that are in LA County or Orange County. When they write articles about the Disney company or the parks themselves in Anaheim, at the very bottom, they write disclaimer, KABC Television 7 Los Angeles is owned by the Walt Disney Corporation.
I see that in New York here also on Channel 7, where they'll actually say it along with the disclaimer on the screen. But so it says, had been pulled over by a police officer while texting and driving with her 2 young sons. So we did know about that slightly. It was the second time in a month. She would later recall that the police had stopped her. On this occasion, Miss Russini tried to fend off a ticket by telling the officer that the coach of the Buffalo Bills had been fired and she was trying to break news.
Oh, the life of the insider.
But is that really an excuse?
No, it's not, especially when you got 2 young kids in the car. Like, come on, be smarter than that.
The officer was unmoved, telling her he was a fan of a different team. I'm assuming that's a joke. I'm hoping. That's when she made him an offer. Maybe she could connect him. Now I see where all the issues are starting to come up. Right then and there to his favorite team's coach. Do you want to talk to the coach? You should talk to the coach. Miss Russini said she told, by the way, Miss Russini, really? I noticed that through the article that they're being very formal now that she doesn't work there anymore.
It's almost like you're writing a lawsuit. It sounds like you're presenting a case to the damn grand jury.
Right. Miss Russini said she told the officer she recounted an incident a couple of weeks later on Stugotz and Company, which we're going to talk about that, how some of this is connected to that, by the way. She goes on to say, I FaceTimed the head coach. A lot of insiders. They have the numbers, so they FaceTime.
Of course.
And apparently she got the officer to talk to the Bills coach or whoever coach it was. And the coach helped her get out of the ticket. It's amazing, right? When you have connections that you can get out of things.
Yeah, that's pretty low and pretty sleazy. Like you're still an average, ordinary, law-abiding citizen. Like you shouldn't be put on a pedestal because of who you work for and who you know.
But can you say this kind of makes sense now with how all the timelining is adding up? I mean,
without a doubt.
About 2 months later, the New York Post published the photos of Russini and Vrabel. So this is 2 months later now. The whole hot tub thing, the Arizona resort in Sedona, the hugging and interlacing of the fingers.
Very awkward. You leave first, and then I'll wait a minute, then I'll follow you out.
Right, because they were eating at a outdoor establishment. Yeah. The pictures created the whole frenzy with Page 6 and TMZ, and additional images then came out that I think even 5-6 years ago, they were at the casinos, they were at a bar drinking and partying. This is all not looking good now. So then the whole relationship reports come out. Are they dating or blah, blah, blah?
Are they cheating on their husbands? Are they doing this? Are they doing that?
This next one, though, is where I think the New York Times is committing an ethical violation.
Let's hear it.
So the tabloid drama stunned the Times company, by the way. I don't know why they didn't write the New York Times. Miss Russini, there it is again, was not just any reporter. The Athletic paid her an annual salary of close to $800,000. I'm sorry, that's an ethical violation. Why are you revealing her salary?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
I don't care if she doesn't work there or not anymore. Because if she was in the company, they wouldn't have revealed it at all. What? According to a former manager who had knowledge of the salary negotiation. So this was a former manager exposing the salary.
Really?
This is directly in the piece. What? This would have made her one of the highest paid journalists at the Times company. Why are we revealing this? Somebody help me here.
Yeah, I was always of the belief, though, Nick, that it was either company policy. I mean, at least for me, it's usually company policy that you're not allowed to discuss salary with your colleagues or publicly at all.
Unless you bring it up on your own accord, but that's your choice.
On your own accord, precisely.
She had been promoted as a face of the sports publication, which we already knew.
Yeah, we already knew that, exactly. When she left ESPN, yeah, she did.
They told her she was going to be a senior NFL insider, which
senior
is kind of
NFL insider and the lead insider for the NFL for the Athletic / New York Times.
By the way, this is even crazier. She had been promoted, as I said, as the face of the sports publication, which the company bought in 2022 for $550 million. Why are they revealing all the numbers of the company? What?
I mean, why does this feel like it's almost like borderline corporate sabotage, too?
I'm surprised the New York Times
let this go through with all these numbers in there.
So it says they paid $550 million as part of an effort to expand the Times reach to sports fans around the world. Again, why are we revealing this? What? At the time the story broke, The Athletic was in discussions with Miss Russini about renewing her contract. Again, this is an ethical violation. Why are we talking about her contract negotiations?
I mean, the only reason I think that they are now is that she's no longer employed by the company and they can actually go to the public and say so. But again, is that crossing that ethical line in the sand, though, where I know people say, well, they both crossed the line, or, she's the only one who's guilty. Like, no, this is also a major thing involving the actual company itself for going beyond the ethical boundaries here.
But I don't care if she was still there, not there, because the way it's written, they're talking about at the time.
Right.
While she was still there and the investigation was going on, they were talking about her contract negotiations. I'm sorry, that's crossing a line, in my opinion.
And we should make note that before Dianna resigned with that letter back in like April or May or late March, early April.
Which people gave her shit for.
The contract, though, was already expiring, and there was no potential opportunity of them maybe renewing it for what we have been able to find out.
I smell something fishy going on. Yeah.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, there's a lot more. We'll see how much we can get through this. But we might have to do a bonus episode on this alone. But Miss Russini's bosses initially backed her, saying the photos lacked essential context. Okay, we went through that whole thing.
Yes.
We talked about how there was ethical issues going on. But The Athletic began an investigation into her reporting, which, by the way, still has no resolution. Rather than wait for the results of her employer's review, Miss Russini resigned. In a statement, she said she stood by her journalism but had no interest in submitting to a public inquiry. And just for context here, That led to a whole fight on ETB Lounge on our Sunday show
Yes.
because everybody said because she resigned, that automatically made her guilty, which I don't want to rehash that whole thing, but
I mean, I will, and just say that, so say that someone else resigns their average 9 to 5. Does that mean they're guilty of something going on around the water cooler at their cubicle in their office? Give me a break.
well, that was the point I had made originally.
Yeah.
That what if you just left a job because it's not the right fit anymore, or you don't like the people anymore? Yeah. Does that mean that you are guilty of a crime or a fraud or no? So it goes on to say a rare woman in the hyper masculine world. Okay. Why do we have
that right there is a reach in right there?
Why do we have to again? Why do we have to phrase? You and I, the whole world knows that the NFL insider game is mostly male. We knew that already, but that doesn't mean that it's fully dominated by male insiders. There are plenty of really good female insiders.
I mean, I know they're not insiders, but I think of Laura Rutledge, Mina Kimes come to mind, Jen Hale comes to mind.
There's so many. I can't even put a list together. But a rare woman in the hyper masculine world of NFL sources and scoop artists. Okay, that's a shot at Scoop City. Yes. By the way, this is not even clever. This is like.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be funny at the same time, you're doing a terrible job of hiding it.
Miss Russini had worked her way into the fraternity of insiders. Again, that's not right. What, all her years at ESPN?
Yeah.
And I think she worked at NBC before that. What do you mean she worked her way into the fraternity of insiders? There were times that they went to her over Adam Schefter at times.
Right.
Okay. So brand name media figures known for their exceptional access. As a dogged reporter with an entertainer's verve, she built her own brand and merged it with one of the most famous institutions in journalism, the New York Times Company. It seemed to be a mutually beneficial agreement until it wasn't. Oh, because it wasn't benefiting you anymore, right?
Exactly.
Miss Russini operated in a sports media landscape where traditional journalistic lines could be blurry. She might have considered calling a coach to get out of a ticket, not only appropriate, but a funny story to tell on a podcast. Why do you have to say that?
Yeah. What does that have to do with where things currently stand, though? I mean, I get it that you're piecing together a timeline, but you're not giving me the meat and the potatoes of this story about, what exactly do we know now from all these, bombshells, that was dropped today by the New York Times.
They do go on to say, though, for the Athletic under the ownership of the Times. Okay. You only needed to say that once. You didn't need to say that 5 million times. We know you're owned by the Times. They claim it was out of bounds. So that's the first time in the entire article we've heard them say that her using the FaceTime,
that her conduct may have been detrimental to the company.
Danielle Rodes Ha, a Times company spokesman, described it as, quote, unacceptable conduct, adding that Athletic editors had been unaware of it because Ms. Russini neither sought nor received permission to appear on the podcast as required by company guidelines. So now we're going to claim ignorance?
Sure seems like it.
I understand we're finding out more of the timeline, but it also sounds like the New York Times is dumb when it comes to their infrastructure.
Oh, that, and I also think that the timing is not right either, and I'm not trying to defend anybody, but I think just from the outside looking in, like I said earlier, I think last time I checked, if there's an active investigation like the NBA with aspiration, no conclusion can be drawn, even if you drop bombshell stories like this that have no bearing whatsoever because you keep talking in circles.
The young Omnisik tweet I sent you yesterday.
Yes.
Where he spoke to Lawrence Frank, who's now
Correct.
I think is the GM, of the Clippers now.
Correct.
He asked Lawrence Frank, "Can you comment?" And he said, "Legally, I can't comment," which is the right answer.
So why is it any different here when it comes to the New York Times writing this article about a former employee?
Because they're going to claim it's happening in their hallways. so to speak. That's my guess. They also go on to say Mr. Vrabel was not the coach whom Miss Russini called for help getting out of the ticket. Okay. One, we already knew that.
Correct.
That piece was not needed. As we continue on here. But regardless of who the coach was, the episode hints a deeper tension over how a sports journalist like Miss Russini works. Her approach to reporting raised specific questions, including whether her closest to a source like Mr. Vrabel compromised her role at The Athletic. Duh! We knew that already.
Yeah.
Whatever the nature of Miss Russini's relationship with Mr. Vrabel, hanging out with him poolside at a tucked-away hotel was problematic, according to journalists and media experts. Again, we don't know what the nature of what they were doing fully. We just saw pictures. We don't have any video, except for when they signed for the boat and they went out.
Yes.
That's the only video. So, now, I have to give them some credit because they probably have better sources than
Oh, of course. Yeah.
we do. So I'm going to assume a lot of what they're saying is probably true when it comes to whatever they saw. It's just they're not framing it the right way. Even someone working in the local news knows if you were seen in a hot tub with a local coach, that wouldn't be okay. Duh! That shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, and to reiterate real quick that the behavior that we've seen from both of these parties involved, Nick and I have condoned. That we're not condoning this stuff whatsoever between both Russini and Vrabel. Let me make that very much crystal clear.
Right. And they go on to say, let me see. Kelly McBride, the chair of the Newmark Center for Ethics and the Poynter Institute and a former ombudswoman at ESPN. Okay, I find that a little conflict of interest right there. Stuff like that gets around fast. As for the story about the traffic stop, Miss McBride said asking a coach for help to avoid a ticket would have been an abuse of professional access for personal gain, which is what you were starting to say before. As part of so now we're getting into the review. As part of its review, The Athletic is looking into Dianna's involvement in the January 2025 article called "Inside Mike Vrabel's Year Off." The roughly 4,400-word article was written by another reporter, Zach Rosenblatt, after Miss Russini helped broker the coach's cooperation, arranging breakfast for the three of them so Mr. Rosenblatt could make his pitch. Mr. Rosenblatt did not respond to a message seeking comment. Gee, you really think he's going to speak about this publicly?
Hell to the no.
The Athletics review of the article does not go beyond Miss Russini's role. So I guess they're claiming that they're only checking out Russini, not Rosenblatt. His name just happens to be on the article.
He just happens to be roped in, sadly.
To report this article, Times journalists interviewed more than 36 people in and around the industry, many of whom had worked with Miss Russini during her 2-decade career. Many spoke on the condition of anonymity because they did not want to risk their own life. That pisses me off when people do that. And I'm sure it annoys you too.
Because I get called they, them on other networks when it comes to my takes when I'm always right.
If you're going to say something, and this happens, the Giants had an incident about this a couple of years ago where I forgot who it was, but they called the fans burger flippers because they...
News to me.
There was a whole thing, like the Michael K show blew it up, and Don LaGreca went viral for it. But one of the athletes came out, but the other athletes did it in anonymously because they didn't want to reveal who they were. Which is
that right now, actually, now that I think about it.
But many spoke on the condition of anonymity because they did not want to risk their own livelihoods. Oh, go ahead.
So the burger flip remark, by the way, came from Evan Neal back in 2023.
Okay, yeah.
During an interview with NJ.com's Daryl Slater, the Giants were in a rough start to the season, 1-4 after a 24-7 loss to Seattle, with fans booing them at MetLife heavily. Evan Neal grew frustrated with the criticism of his play and the team's performance and told the writer, the person that's commenting on my performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere, open and close quote.
Yeah, and that led to a whole viral rant by Don LaGreca.
It also looked like McAfee also popped off on it too.
So, long story short, as we move ahead, Miss Russini was sent a detailed memo. Oh, this is the part I wanted you to hear. Miss Russini was sent a detailed memo laying out the Times reporting. She declined several requests for an interview. Neither she nor Vrabel commented for this article whether their relationship had been romantic. You really think they're going to comment on that?
No. And again, that went to the point earlier about Russini resigning again now with the contract running out. Again, once again, both
parties are guilty.
Yes, they're both guilty. We've tried to say that here, and people think that we're, full of hot air and lead and full of diarrhea. I don't know how much more crystal clear that we can make that point, that no one here is exempt from being penalized. And I know you're going to say, well, it's win-loss behavior because we only care about wins and losses. Well, Zach Gelb can go jump off a building as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to him talking about Vrabel and talking about this whole story, that no one here is going to win. And I think that eventually there's going to be some kind of pressure, I'd say, Nick, regarding the Pats going forward. I know that, Robert Kraft's had his own problems, but one's got to think here eventually that something's going to happen with Vrabel.
You would think, and I still find it a mistake by the NFL putting them on opening night, because the national media is going to be eating him alive.
They're going to eat that story alive all season until something happens.
But just think about opening day when most of the national media is there.
Right, and they're going to be playing the Seahawks, in Seattle?
Yeah, I think so.
Oof,
but
that's even worse.
They're going to eat him alive. You don't think they're going to, unless the PR person, you can't ask only football questions.
Oh, so we're going to turn this like the Giants did with Buster Posey over the weekend when it came to the whole Pride Night controversy.
And we don't even have time to get to that, because we might, maybe later on. But again, and then the one line that really annoyed me here, the Athletic and the Times company did not make their executives available to be spoken to in this article.
Well, again, it's still an active investigation, which, again, I don't understand why is this story coming out now when you still have this investigation going and it still might be weeks away from being resolved.
Yeah, but I have a problem with the fact that the reporters at The Athletic were willing to speak posthumously.
Yes.
And they say, oh, well, we don't want our name on it. But the Times executives are being told that they're not allowed to talk. What's that all about? I mean,
yeah.
This is getting bad. Like
it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse.
I'm not going to bore you with the other timeline stuff, because they talk about how she went on all the radio shows and said the weird things that we saw populate on Twitter for videos and stuff. And then they talk about her time at ESPN and being an insider and all the stories she broke. They talk about Nashville being her second home, which, to be honest, there's no claim to that. So they really can't make a claim. Do you want to say she went back and forth a ton of times in Nashville because of the Vrabel situation? Yeah.
Sure.
But I don't know, man. Like, I'm saying this now. She's guilty.
I agree.
She's guilty. And this is the first time you and I are putting any words to the world of this podcast.
And we promised you folks, again, listen to me very carefully, that we promised you folks once we got something bigger that would drop, that we would eventually make up our minds on this. There you go. What more do you want?
No, but she's 100% guilty. I'm willing to put my words on it now, because...
Do you, before we move on, Nick, do you at all think that now that this totally ruins her career, where she's not going to be able to get back into the field, or what do you think?
She's going to have to go off on her own?
Yeah.
Which, heck, we're all doing that now, because the industry is taking a dump on everybody because of all the AI nonsense. But
right. Oh, yeah, that's a whole different animal. Yeah.
But what company is going to take a chance on her after all this stuff?
Yeah, sounds like Brendan Sorsby. Oh, wait, they didn't do the NFL supplemental draft, so ha, ha, ha.
And we don't even have time to get to that today. But
I got to it last night, though, on Cranium. So, and like I said, you can go and read my recent Substack from a couple days ago, where, again, somebody who was a freshman in high school predicted that gambling was going to overthrow sports in some capacity, and here we are 17 years later. You're welcome.
I appreciate what the New York Times did, because now we see a fully completed timeline. You have to admit, this is the first completed timeline.
This is the first complete, like, the puzzle's actually done. Hallelujah, eureka.
It also, at the very end, They write, Miss Russini did not alert editors to any conflicts of interest, according to the Times. If
That's a red flag.
if that's true,
Then
there's no defense.
stick a
for
fork
that.
in her.
Mr. Russini and Mr. Vrabel should have known better, said Robert Lipstead, a former longtime Times writer and ESPN ombudsman. I don't know how they got access to all these former ESPN people.
But did that say that both Russini and Vrabel share the blame here?
It's the quote says Miss Russini and Mr. Vrabel, quote, should have known better. Listen up.
Not just one side of a story, folks. Both parties are guilty here.
And I'm going to say this very clearly. Connor Rowland, Nick DiMartino, Liam Barwick. Listen to the line. I'm going to say it one more time. And this is from a former ESPN ombudsman who's worked with ESPN for years. Okay? Miss Russini and Mr. Vrabel, quote, should have known better. I'm waiting for the apology now because they're stating to you that they both should have known better. The facts are the facts. If you want to hide behind the win-loss culture like you were saying before, then that's a you problem. Like whoever is having that opinion.
Exactly.
Long story short, do I think this is fully over yet? Because they haven't deemed the investigation over. That's why you and I think this piece is awkward.
Yeah, I'm just, again, like I said, like the timing is very much awkward when it comes to where things are at right now, that you have an active investigation still going on. You've got this thing dropping this morning on Wednesday, and we have no full resolution yet of it, though. But, I mean, now I think that the writing is on the wall, though, that Russini is about as guilty as can be, where, again, that should not, though, excuse Mike Vrabel for what he also did, too, with his own personal conduct.
I mean, do you remember the quote that he said, I have a difficult situation to discuss with my family?
Yes.
You wouldn't say that unless you felt guilty in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll see, though, where that story, though, folks, goes. We'll move on here as we get ready to close out hour one. This will bleed into hour two. Sally, though, Nick, wow. Talk about another major meltdown, but the public implosion at Meadowlark Media reached an all-time fever pitch over the course of the last couple of days after Dan Le Batard released a serious video addressing the legitimate corporate and creative fallout between both him and Stugotz. Stugotz, though, Nick, fired back with a very bizarre 7-minute emergency pod, but the audio via iHeartMedia dropped, but the audio drop featured less than 2 minutes of actual rambling responses from Stugotz, with the other 5 minutes, Nick, full of nothing more than pre-roll and mid-roll and ending commercial breaks, turning a serious company fracture into a transparent cash grab. So Nick, Stugotz monetizing his own company's crisis with an ad-bloated 7-minute podcast is the most on-brand move imaginable. But does this now finally show that he's completely checked out of treating Meadowlark as a serious business venture, but also severing ties with Dan Le Batard after all these years?
First of all, excuse me, I don't know what his situation is because he claims he's the second highest shareholder at Meadowlark Media. He has said that multiple times. So, number one, just to address, because you and I went and listened to that shit show of a 7-minute podcast. It's not even a podcast. It's what would you call it? A short audio clip response, maybe?
If it's even worth that.
Like, do you still have the picture of the timer you took for how long it was?
Oh, let me see if I still have it.
I think it was like a minute and 20-something seconds, if that.
Going back to the text chain real quick. So that episode, folks, by the way, dropped on...
It was the day of.
Thursday night at 8:33 Pacific time.
Right. They literally threw it together. Wow.
2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Now, just for context, that's the amount of talk time that was
Yes.
done in that 7 minutes.
Correct.
Because you and I were confused. So I went to put it on, and I said, okay, usually when you listen to a company or a network podcast, you get what? Like a minute of ads, and then they usually run, and then they play the show.
Correct.
1 ad, 2 ad, 3 ads, 4 ads. Like it took like 2 minutes almost to get. Then you got barely 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 15 seconds. And then they aired another 2.5 minutes of ads. Like, you know what? I understand the whole Stugotz personality. When he was on the show, what was the Stugotz personality? That he's the lazy personality. All he cares about is money, and
Right.
But that was more character, because that's what the Dan Le Batard show with Stugotz, the former show, was. They all played characters in a facade to be funny, like,
or as I like to call it, it's just radio shtick.
But they did a good job with it. Like,
Great job with it.
Because some people would say, "Oh, well, it's just a bunch of weird characters in a pirate ship," which is what that was kind of the angle of everything. But now I do think he's a lazy individual, like, that cares about money.
Yeah.
And the other guy, I can't remember his name. Hockman, the other guy,
Right,
who used to be a producer on the Le Batard show when it was on radio at 790 The Ticket in Miami, and before it went to ESPN and took on national prominence. But this made no sense to me at all.
No, and, honestly, I think both individuals handled this semi-poorly, but I think that Dan had a little bit more to say, because I think he actually did a 5+ minute long video where he kind of talked about the struggle regarding the, in the way, like, the creative differences between him and Stugotz or what have you. But at least, though, at least from my perspective, Dan, I think, made a better effort to at least try to explain to the viewers what's going on, rather than what Stugotz did with that, very uncanny 2 minutes and 15 seconds of talking. Then he had a bunch of ads for O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I feel like that's Stugotz in a nutshell, though. That's his personality. It's basically, I'll do whatever the hell I want. I'm pissed off at Dan. I'm pissed off at Meadowlark Media, which he might have a beef somewhat on some things. We still don't know the full story. Stu keeps saying that he knows the full story and Dan's not telling the full story. So I don't know what to make of this.
Neither do I. Do we have time, Nick, to get to the should we get to the top of the hour, or what should we do here?
Yeah, let's take a top hour break and then we'll
get to the network's weekly update. Don't worry, folks. We'll get back to more about the Meadowlark Media meltdown here when we get past the top of the hour. But with that, Nick, another long week of coverage here across ETB. Some ideas are currently on deck when we get to a certain threshold of watch hours, but also more World Cup coverage coming late on Thursday night, too.
Yeah, so the world has arrived for the 39-day global spectacle that is the FIFA World Cup, and ETB has you covered with the best coverage of the beautiful game, as Callan, McClurg, and Trevor Williams empty the pitch with in-depth coverage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Join the fellas this Thursday for their next post-matchup, showing the U.S. men's national team's match against Turkey at 10 p.m. Eastern time for the kickoff. Only on the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Those shows have been great. We've had a lot of people come in and watch. Unfortunately, we've said this match kind of is a non-important match because they've already cleared the group.
Yeah, they've already won the group. We have gotten some reports that Christian Pulisic will play in some way on Thursday for Team USA after missing the last game with that calf problem. So, again, we'll really see what comes out of that match from LA Stadium on Thursday night when they kick off at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And again, as a reminder, though, folks, it is a stacked 4 days for the tournament because of the fact that they're against a bit of a time crunch. They're doing 6 matches per day, 2 games in the same time slot, starting today, literally in a minute when we have 2 games kick off. So we're going to be having a lot of great coverage for you folks on Saturday for ETP as we'll recap everything that we know right now, of course, from this week, though. More tickets have been punched for groups. There's still groups up for grabs right now. But I'll tell you what, it's been very fun, though, Nick, documenting this tournament, though, from start to finish.
Yeah, it's been an incredible tournament. We're going to get some more short-form stuff out for you guys, too. we have Empty the Clock, which we're going to try to get some more short form out to you because 6 matches each the next 2 days. It's been quite a feast or famine tournament the way this is
Big time.
been going. What else do we have coming up? MTGP will be a Friday vehicle this week. It will be Nick DiMartino and Tom Albano on Friday at noon Eastern time Friday. So don't miss that. I'm sure they're going to get into some of this a little bit. Also, we had our ETB Sports reunion yesterday.
It was great.
Thank you to everybody who came and watched. We had over 520 people watching the stream live. That felt like nothing changed. Tom and I did that show for years before this even became a full network. So we were the original show before it became a full-fledged giant network that you see in front of you today. But wow, like that, and I have an idea for a project in the works that Tom and I are going to hopefully work on at least probably once a month. It probably won't be every week, but
yeah,
we're going to do the oral history, video/oral history of the network. We'll talk some sports in there too, but we'll talk about some of the stories that were crazy at the time when we first started this network, and we'll talk about some of the ups and downs of how the network started, some of the dramas we went through, how the network needed to evolve all the way to today. So, now I don't want to give the name yet, but it's a good one. I will tell you.
Empty the insert something here.
Well, because that was the name of the show, but I think you're going to like this. I promise. Anything else we got to kind of get into this update or no?
Not necessarily. Usual shows are in their slots, so we'll have Hitting from a Cycle on Thursday. Then, of course, we'll have Team USA Turkey recap with myself. Maybe Trevor will be able to join us, though, if work will allow him to do so. If not, it'll be me writing solo for the 30 to 60-minute recap of the game for Team USA. Again, they've already cleared the group, as Nick said, though. With that, though, Nick, we'll go back, though, to more about the Meadowlark Media meltdown, though, but compounding the operational chaos involving Dan Le Batard's program, longtime creative pillar and producer Mike Fuentes also announced that he is immediately departing the show and Meadowlark Media. Mike confirmed he has served or severed ties with the network in any and all capacities. A major blow to the show's day-to-day behind-the-scenes infrastructure amid the ongoing host civil war. But Nick, when a elite technical and creative director like Fuentes walks out the door completely, is this a sign that the toxic on-air host friction has made Meadowlark a unworkable environment for the production staff, in your opinion?
See, again, we don't know the full story of what's going on behind the scenes currently at Meadowlark, but there is some dramas going on there. Now, they say that he said he left. We don't know if he was fired. We don't know if he decided to just sever ties himself. We don't know the full story. But it just sounds like they're kind of cleaning house a little bit. We talked about the other women content creators that they moved on from too. I can't remember her name. She was the college football. Oh, Lucy Rodon.
Oh,
Lucy
yes,
Rodon.
yes.
She moved on. I think she's going to be better off because she really wasn't appearing on the show as much. So, and then Jessica Smetana, who I actually think is good on the show. She's doing a Notre Dame podcast with Mike Golick Jr. Fitting. Called The Echoes. So I think you're starting to see that there's tension. Billy Gill, who was a producer, we talked about that for a long time, went to Spotify.
Right.
Probably because he didn't want to deal with the drama. Billy Gill was with the show from the time it started in Miami.
Uh-huh.
At least locally. But we're not hearing the whole entire story, I think. And people are going to automatically say, oh, well, Dan's a woke scumbag and It's all his fault. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
No, no one knows what's going on here. Now, I do think, though, Nick, it's a bit of a alarming couple of days here for Meadowlark Media when it's come to this show with Dan and Stu having their issues, and then Mike Fuentes, though, upping to parts of the program, too. I think, Nick, it's one of those things, though, where you don't want to be a part of the circus anymore. Like, it's one of those where inevitably, I think I made the comparison a couple weeks recently regarding, like, and Christy will get the reference. It's like watching one of your favorite WWE tag teams in pro wrestling that they have their great run of like a year, 2 years, they win championships, and then they turn on each other and they start feuding. That's kind of how I can compare this a little bit, though, with Dan and Stu, that, you have a great run of two decades, then, and this is, I think, Nick, you and I can vouch for this, creative differences come to the forefront when you're a part of a program like what they had, though, or at a company. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that, though, when it comes to, this network. I've seen a lot, though, too, when it's come to platforms I was at before I came here, or just, even away from that, like, differences happen sometimes, and they sometimes reach a fever pitch just like this.
Well, there was rumor and speculation because they just had they just celebrated their 20th anniversary as a show, that they said there was some drama caused by the like the documentary and a lot of stuff they put together, the history of the Le Batard show they put together. Apparently that started some of the drama behind the scenes.
Not good.
But 20 years for anything in the media space is a long time in this world that we work in. You notice that people are jumping from company to company to company after a year because they're always looking for the better offer. That's never how the industry worked. You try to find a place to work. You'd work there, if you're lucky, 4 to 5 years. And if you can extend it and make it to a decade or 15 years and have a consistent career, you're good. Now everybody jumps everywhere. Now you have the ability to go off on your own. Now it's harder, but if you can make a following, you don't even need to go to places anymore to start.
Yeah, I mean, I just find the whole thing to be very weird, Nick, that there would be some kind of just like massive exodus of everybody in wake of that whole video coming out from Le Batard, and then how Stugotz, had that very, again, bloated, ad-filled, ad-filled audio podcast where, again, I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone listening to all of the, listening to the O'Reilly Auto Parts jingle on loop that whole entire time or what have you. But certainly, yeah, this whole thing is very interesting. And, I mean, I wonder if eventually, Nick, if this show just crashes and burns eventually.
Well, you had asked me this question the other night. First of all, they need each other. That I've always said that it needs to be the Dan Le Batard show with Stugotz.
It has to be.
Now, I think Dan was wrong. Tom and I talked about it on ETV Sports yesterday. Why did it take a year to remove Stugotz's name from the show?
Right.
That's a question I've always had. If he's not there, take his name off the show. Yeah.
Nothing bad, but there is, though, Nick, some breaking news from the U.S. Hockey League, the USHL, which is another prospect pipeline sort of league. They have made an announcement within the last 8 minutes that the USHL is adding 6 new teams on the west coast of the U.S. starting by the 27-28 season for Tier 1 junior hockey. The markets will include San Diego, Irvine, California, suburban Los Angeles, California, an unknown place in Northern California, Prescott Valley, Arizona, and Phoenix, Arizona. They have also named owners in the marketplaces. Current Avalanche GM and Hockey Hall of Famer Joe Sakic, alongside Sean Hicks, will be the owner of the team in San Diego. John Moreland and Anaheim Ducks legend Teemu Selanne will own the franchise in Irvine, California. Lero J Sports in Simi Valley, California, which is just north of LA. Mark Hines will own the team in NorCal. Justin Reynolds, Prescott Valley. Ben Robert, Phoenix, Arizona. There's also some talk, too, Nick, that Luc Robitaille, the longtime LA Kings president and Hockey Hall of Famer, will also have a role with the franchise, I believe, either in San Diego or in Simi Valley, California.
Expansion at its best.
No venues have been announced yet. I am going to assume that probably would assume that they would probably send the USHL team to the arena where the new Fed Prospects Hockey League team is going to. But trying to find some more info about that. But the USHL, Nick, is a very, very successful hockey league, similar to one I worked in when I first got into broadcasting 18 years ago. It's a 16-team league. It's been around for 79 years. But, Nick, they are going to finally get out of the American Midwest and come out to the West Coast finally after trying so hard. So San Diego, Orange County, Simi Valley, Northern California, Prescott Valley, and Phoenix all beginning in 27-28 for the USHL.
Makes sense. Trying to expand. Where were we, though?
Let's move on, Nick, to the other big thing that we talked about a little bit with yourself and Tom on Monday. Ring the bell, damn it. Craig Carton versus Dan Le Batard, Nick. But my goodness, seizing on Meadowlark's public insanity, FS1 and Legacy Radio host Craig Carton went scorched earth on Dan Le Batard during a recent broadcast, with Carton completely unleashing on Le Batard's media legacy, publicly labeling him a woke scumbag with absolutely no talent, and framing the current Miami downfall as the inevitable collapse of hyper-politicized sports media. Yeah, about that, though, Nick.
So I have the audio, or the video, actually. So why don't we take a look at it?
Sure.
So this got pretentious a little bit. But here is the Le Batard show playing the audio from the Craig Carton show. Now, just to clarify, this is not his Fox show. This is on WFAN, which I think is even a little more out of bounds, in my opinion. But let's take a listen.
Dan, we have breaking news over here. Convicted felon Craig Carton doesn't like you.
What he's saying.
Hey, I'll allow it. So Craig Carton on his radio show the other day had a few things to say about you, Dan, when a caller called up and mentioned the things. So Carton apparently is close with Jim Dolan. All right. And
Shocker.
A caller called into his show on WFAN and brought up your name and things that you said, the things you said last week about Jim Dolan. And here was convicted felon Craig Carton.
Did you happen to catch the things that Dan Le Batard said on his show the other day about James Dolan?
First off, I didn't know he had a show. B,
Well,
I don't care
kind
for
of
him
a
because
show, I
he's an
guess.
untalented hack who's
He's a scumbag.
I agree with that too. He's a self-appointed moral compass of America when he's had zero success in any platform he's ever been on. And if not for gambling money with his company down in Florida, he would be a no-name nobody.
Okay, stop.
Hold it right there. I was going to say, Nick, didn't this guy have a highly rated ESPN show with Bomani Jones and his dad called Highly Questionable? On top of all that, along with the fact he was also the #1 ranked columnist for the Miami Herald at one point in time.
So he was a #1 columnist at the Miami Herald, which Greg Cody, who you saw sitting there, helped him get in, break his teeth into the business. Highly Questionable was a #1 show on ESPN for years, over a decade,
if not longer.
First of all, and I said this on ETV Sports yesterday, shows don't last a decade by accident.
No, not at all. Exactly.
So the ratings had to have been good if the show was going to be. And to call him a talentless scumbag and a hack. Craig, what are you? Think about that.
Yeah.
Nobody
Continue.
cares what he's ever had to say about anything. He's never had a #1 rated radio show. He's never had a #1 rated television show. He's never been the #1 columnist when he was a columnist down in South Florida. He just likes to tell other people how they should live their lives.
I'm sorry, Craig, what do you do on radio every day?
What?
I love the reaction of both Jeremy and Roy during this block here of the show too. Like they're talking back to each other and then they're like laughing about, can you believe this guy?
But I'm saying is to say that he's telling you what you're supposed to think. I'm sorry, what industry are we in again?
Yeah, we're in an industry where you kind of tell people to think about sports and how we go and how you go about it. Yes.
I mean, this goes from 1 to 100,000 very fast, but we continue.
And when he's not talking about successful people in media, he has nothing to say worth listening to. So I don't know what he said about Dolan. And I know you're not the bad guy here, Joe. I also don't care what he had to say about Dolan because I've never cared about anything he has ever had to say about anybody. And he's taking shots at me routinely. Has he had the balls ever to challenge me and bring me on the show? No. Because he knows he's a loser and can't stay in the same room with me when it comes to going back and forth in an adult argument or conversation.
How about you're a jailbird?
I was gonna say, like, dude, you've got a public rap sheet of, the gambling, like the gambling scandal that you were a part of, and
The ticket fraud?
Yeah, ticket fraud. You've been in and out of the Who's Gal. You've been, hired, fired, rehired, and regurgitated across the airwaves for how long? Give me a break.
WFAN, the only reason they bring you back is because they know your name is connected to WFAN.
Precisely.
Also, your failed attempt at a Fox FS1 morning show, the
Yes.
Carton show, which they then tried to change to Breakfast Ball with Mark Schlereth and Danny Parkins.
Yeah, Parkins. Yeah.
And where's Danny Parkins now? He's part of First Things First.
Right.
Because they signed Parkins to a massive contract, so they moved him to another show so they didn't lose the money. And where's Carton now? He's doing a streaming show for Fox. For Red Sea. Yes.
Nick, we have a breaking news story from the National Women's Soccer League. You might recall we talked about this fiasco last summer when the Orlando Pride played the KC Current and the game got delayed because of the weather conditions with the heat.
Oh, the heat. Yeah.
So ESPN has confirmed that the NWSL now has officially updated the heat safety policy and will simplify hydration breaks when the league resumes operation coming up in about a week's time over the 4th of July weekend per reports.
Save that thought because we're going to talk about the hydration thing
Yes.
for the World Cup. So remind me of that when we get there.
I have it saved, so we're good. Continue.
But this thing is insane. Craig throwing stones when he's a glass house.
Precisely.
Now, we're not even at the low blow.
Oh, but don't worry. It gets better, folks.
So take a listen.
Is that it, or is there more?
No, it's a little bit more. He went on about how you speak about
Because
other
Craig
people.
doesn't
too.
shut
I
up.
can't stand people that make a living off of just putting other people in our chosen profession down.
That certainly has been what's been going on the last few months. That's
Yeah.
all he does. All he does is take what Boomer says or what this one says
Right.
or what that one says and comment.
He's
on it.
a woke scumbag is all he is with no talent. He's had no success at any level that he's ever done. Yes, he got a big check from DraftKings. Good for you. Nobody watches you. Nobody listens to you.
All right, hold on. You're the one talking about gambling money when you went to jail for gambling fraud?
I mean, talk about putting foot in mouth, eh?
Well, or he didn't technically go to jail for the gambling fraud. He went to jail because of the ticket fraud, which was funding his gambling habit.
But still, though, isn't that like hand, foot, and mouth disease right there?
Yeah. I mean, talking about a pot calling the kettle black. First of all, and the other thing I want to point out, too, and I said this yesterday, what are the sponsor categories you need to survive in this space?
A gambling partner, DraftKings, FanDuel.
You need to get
underdog.
You need a gambling partner to survive.
For sure,
And
1,000%.
I can't say much now, but we might be working on one. A real one.
We'll
for a
see.
change. But you need it to survive in the sports digital space. You just won't survive without it. But for him to say, oh, well, he's only a thing because he got the gambling money. Dude, you went to jail because you were funding your gambling habit.
So go out there and give your speeches and get on your high horse about how society would be better without people like me in it and, have at it. I feel bad if he has children. I would hate if he was my father. What? Be embarrassed. Hopefully he can't have kids. Populate the world with more of his bad takes on everything. He should just be happy DraftKings wrote him a check and shut up.
Okay, that's enough out of that.
That's where you don't go. is that you don't insult family, you don't insult their kids, you don't insult their personal lives. You can, again, you can chip away at the mystique of the person, when it comes to how they go about their business or this or that. But the last thing you do in this industry is begin to potshot people's families and their personal lives away from their line of work.
I said it on Empty the Bench yesterday that I have no problem if you don't like, Carton confirming what an asshole he is. That's for sure. I have no problem if he wants to call him a jerk and you have an opinion that you don't like somebody. We all do that. We all say we don't like
all
people.
the time.
But
all the time.
When you started to say that I hope he doesn't have kids or he can't have kids because he's going to populate the world in a horrible way, dude, you have kids of your own and you were in jail.
And I'm sure your kids disown you, Mr. Carton, because you served time in prison.
Your wife almost divorced your ass, reportedly, because you went to jail and all the dumb shit you were doing, traveling to Mohegan Sun and all those casinos
Atlantic City
by private helicopter and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars because you had a gambling problem. You, buddy, have no room to throw stones. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I thought the ending of that was classless, and I also, and we didn't show up because we had to move on though. But I applaud though, Nick, how Dan handled that whole thing about that was how you kind of in a way take the criticism when it goes that far, when it boils down to I hope you don't have kids. It's like in a way, Nick, I hate to say this, that's about as dangerous rhetoric as we've seen all these spam bots on the internet write those horrible messages to pro athletes because of where, as we've said, what gambling has done to sports in general, that now the wife of players are getting targeted. I hope that, I'm going to go find you and kill your wife and your kids. Like, come on now.
But I just have a problem. But I have a problem with, first of all, Craig will never make it as national media, even though he claims 100 million views or to his Fox streaming podcast. I think he's over accentuating his numbers, to be honest. He only can be on WFAN because he can't do the national spotlight. And it's funny how Craig says that Dan is only good at attacking people. Craig, what are you doing in this whole rant?
You're literally attacking somebody in the industry.
And by the way, Dan has invited you on the show. You chose not to go on it. So I think Craig has a defense mechanism problem. Yes.
Got a hockey trade.
Okay.
Per Emily Kaplan of ESPN, the Capitals are finalizing a sign-and trade for Alex Tuck from the Buffalo Sabres. Tuck will sign an 8-year extension, AAV roughly $10.5 million per Emily Kaplan of ESPN. So literally, Nick, we go from the NBA draft now to all things NHL draft on Friday, and the wheels are in motion for more moves.
Well, it's that time of the summer, right? I mean, all the moves are starting to come in. But just to conclude, that there's a lot of drama in Meadowlark Media between Dan and Stugotz. Then you have this stupidity between Dan and Craig Carton. That's why I think they finally went through a rebrand process, and they're trying to kind of clean out some of the people that are not full members of the show because they want to get back to doing the show.
Yeah, they want to cut out a lot of the excess fat, with where things stand.
So, you know what? Craig's an idiot. A jailbird, a gambling. You notice, by the way, that he said, "Oh, you can run any gambling ads you want during my WFAN show. I just can't participate." And I'm like,
I wonder why, bozo.
What, because you want the money, right? I mean, Craig's a hack. Every time he comes up, oh, well, I had James Dolan on my show. I had Rob Manfred on my show.
Bravo.
Like, if we get big enough, we could do that at some point. I mean, like, that's not that difficult. That's just knowing who the PR of all the leagues are. So go be a hack. Leave everybody alone. And because you can't handle the heat, just go away.
All right, Nick, into the World Cup, into the soccer block here with 3 stories. We first, Nick, start off with last week's Team USA's 2-0 victory over Australia to clinch the group. But they also, Nick, brought in $14 million viewers on Fox, in part with the Juneteenth holiday and the afternoon slate. The incredible numbers officially crowned the match as the highest watched Friday afternoon telecast on any broadcast network in over 4 years, underscoring the massive domestic power of home soil World Cup scheduling, as we long said. So, Nick, by pulling nearly 15 million viewers to Fox on a holiday, does this prove finally that the casual sports fan base is fully locked into this tournament? And does the numbers explosion alter how Fox values midday international sporting windows going forward?
I think there is a few factors here with the ratings and numbers. One, it's the summer. Two, I think that there's no NBA on right now. There's no NHL. No offense to soccer, but all the major sports are over. So what are we watching right now?
You got the World Cup front and center.
You have the World Cup. You have baseball, and that's pretty much it. Until
golf,
auto
racing.
But I would put golf and auto racing down. But until college sports comes back, till college football and college basketball and the NFL come back,
of course,
the World Cup is right now on the top with baseball. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of people are watching baseball because it's a grueling season, a lot of games. People will start to watch probably, what would you say, around
after the All-Star break?
Yeah, probably end of July.
You got the All-Star break, you've got the game, the Derby, then of course you got the trade deadline. So that's when people really, I think, begin to buy into baseball.
Correct. So this makes total sense that the numbers are up there because, one, it's international. Everyone's going to watch. It's like the Olympics. People like to watch the Olympics, so this helps people remind that they're watching the Olympics. And what did I say to you originally when this started? It's about your country pride.
Correct.
When you watch these events. Like in the U.S., everyone wants to see the U.S. to win. Think about Scotland, which you and I have been laughing about over the last week or so.
Norway, the Dutch, Japan,
no, but
Mexico.
But I'm just saying Scotland drinking out of bars in Boston to the point where they didn't have any beer left. And then some of the cool things, like who was the one that was it Japan that left the locker room clean? And
Japan did that. I said on Cranium on Tuesday, Nick, too, as well. The very classy, heartfelt letter that was left behind by the Iranian national team in Los Angeles, where I kind of made that point on Tuesday on Cranium.
Oh, the peace talks. Yeah.
Yeah. And not even that, though, Nick, again, the viral sensation of the Norway road chant that I absolutely have loved to see or have seen over the past couple of days, and I don't know if they're out of alcohol yet. I know Boston had to call in like emergency trucks to take care of that.
Yeah, but that's the home of beer.
Yeah. Hooray, beer.
But I thought it was cool that Iran, like they were able to put like the political tensions aside and say, let's try to do something positive for a change. Japan cleaning up the stadium, which I thought I've never seen that.
I've seen it plenty of times when I've gone back to Japan, and even at the World Baseball Classic when Japan was here, same thing.
First of all, everyone should clean up after their own mess. That should be a given. But I thought it was cool, like that they cleaned up everything inside the locker room, including folding the jerseys.
Everything, yeah.
Trying to think what else, but no, this World Cup has been fun. Like just watching all the different games. We had some upsets already happen.
Yeah, we've had upsets. We've had history made with some of the first-time countries, like
Messi.
I've said this on Cranium on Tuesday that for the second time in the tournament already, Kylian Mbappe, Erwin Haaland, and Leo Messi all scored goals on the same day. Plus, of course, Ronaldo scored in that drubbing of Uzbekistan on Tuesday as well. But also, Nick, like I've long said, and by the way, both those games that are right now going on in the noon window, they're all 28-minute right now. They all kicked off at the same time. So in a way, I wanted to say this real quick. This is a lot like what they call Major League Soccer Decision Day, where every game kicks off at the same time, like almost like how baseball operates the final day of the regular season, where every game starts at 12 o'clock or 12 or 10 after 12.
It's so like NFL Red Zone.
Yeah, basically. So they're all doing that right now. But also, Nick, I think you're right, though. And I would also say as well that, like you said, that people want to watch America succeed. And, even where things... and also... Oh, great. Bosnia has taken the early lead about a half hour in on Qatar in Group B play. So right now, folks, if that result holds up, Bosnia would jump to the top of the table alongside Canada.
Would they play the U.S. if that played out too?
Only if they finish in third, because Team USA right now will play the third. We'll play a third place team from one of 5 different groups, depending on how the standings shake out.
I mean, I have the cup on right now as we're doing this.
I have my Google tab open that's got the live scoreboard, so we're both keeping tabs on it. Believe me.
And you know me, like I'm not the biggest soccer. I love the cup. I've watched it quite a few times.
And that went to my point though, Nick, too, as well. And I think that these numbers do say that you can be as much of like, I care about the American version of football. I might watch a little bit here and there. But I think, though, that, like I said on Tuesday, that I really hope that once the World Cup ends, that more people at least continue to give the sport a chance. Because I think that the only way, and I said this a lot, though, Nick, about hockey, the only way that these two sports grow in this country is if we continue to support the product. I mean, that means going to MLS matches, NWSL matches, as I'll be doing on the 4th of July when San Diego plays Gotham on July 4th in the evening. It's supporting your local AHL affiliates in hockey or the NHL club. That's the only way that those sports will gain traction, that you continue to support the product when the Olympic Games are no longer in season for the next 4 years, or there's no soccer. And I think, Nick, that 2 games in a row, though, more importantly, Team USA wins both games. So I think that helps out too. But I also just think, though, Nick, that you want to, as you said, though, you're watching your country play. And I think that's, and we can also say, well, hey, it's a home hosted World Cup. Time zones line up better than maybe if they were playing overseas somewhere like it was when, I got up at 3:00 in the morning to go to Disneyland with one of my buddies, and we're watching the gold medal game at 5 a.m. Pacific time. We're on the tram to go into the theme park, and we both yell when Jack Hughes wins the game, and people look at us like, what the hell's going on here? And say, oh, sorry, we were just watching the gold medal hockey game. And now I will think, though, Nick, I think this number maybe ticks down a little bit on Thursday for the simple fact, what's there to play for? You've already won the group. You're not going to play everybody for the full 90 minutes. And I'll tell you what, though, that knockout game next Wednesday, July 1st, that might shatter records, win or lose for Team USA that night.
It might, just because people are looking forward to those games. I mean, where are we up to? The round of 32 is where we're heading?
We're getting close. We have 3 more days of group stage play, which is why, again, folks, we have 6 games today, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
These games have been incredible. By the way, USA looks much better than people anticipated, I feel like, so far.
I think so.
Now, I know we've had the injury with
Lisic.
Right, and he shouldn't play. He should not play. Anyone who has a yellow card should not play. People don't know the rules. If you get a second yellow card, you're out for the round of 32.
You're suspended for the next game, yes.
Now, I don't think, if I remember correctly, once you get to the quarters, it resets, or
I think after the group stage. No, so I think after every round, I think everything resets.
Well, they said one of them, it doesn't reset.
Yeah, one of them doesn't. I think once you get out of the group stage, everything goes back to clean slate.
But then you have to wait till the quarters.
Correct.
Again, for it to reset. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that rule, by the way, because you could trip somebody and get a yellow card, but thankfully we haven't seen any of those red card. We've only seen one.
We had one of them. Yeah, we had one where I believe a Paraguay or Uruguay player covered his mouth, and that is a new rule that you cannot cover your mouth to talk to the opponent or the referee. And it was an automatic red card, and he got a 1-game suspension.
Did they ever say if he was disciplined by the organizations or the
FIFA upheld the 1-game suspension because he broke that new rule?
Well, I'm talking about the team. Did they ever react or say anything about it, or no?
No, not that I've seen from any of the reporting done. That they kind of he broke the rule. We can't do much about it. It's a 1-game suspension,
which is kind of nuts. Think about.
Yeah.
Would you say, though, that's a little over the top, though, that they're giving red cards for that?
Yes and no, because I've seen instances, and we're going to talk about Landon Donovan here in about a segment or two. But of course, you may not remember, but Landon was the head coach of a minor league team here in San Diego, and they gave up. They forfeited a game at halftime because because at the time the Loyal had a openly gay player on their roster, and this one player was just getting eaten alive by gay slurs by a player from Phoenix from the team from Phoenix. They walked off the field at halftime and saying, "We're not going to finish this game because of what this guy's doing to one of our guys on the team." And I think that a lot of it, though, Nick, was because he was doing stuff like this. And I think that you begin to crack down on that sort of thing, though. But I know it's like universal, like baseball. That hey, you don't want to, we're going to go fastball, curveball, changeup here, to get this guy out, and that you want to, do whatever. But still, I really, though, Nick, wonder how many of these rules now make the jump to MLS or the NWSL once the World Cup's over.
I doubt it, because remember, FIFA doesn't run the other organizations that have these other soccer teams, right? So you have MLS and you have international soccer.
Well, make it 2-0 Bosnia over Qatar in the 35th minute, while the Swedes and Canada are still 0-0 35 minutes in. So Bosnia right now in total control of Qatar. Again, a win there by Bosnia will move them to the top of the table, and I believe send Canada down to the third place spot. Could you imagine USA Canada?
That would be crazy, right?
And in the first leg of the knockout round in Seattle.
That would probably be winnable, though, for them, more than likely, wouldn't it?
It could. Boy, if that happens and Team USA beats Canada for a third time in a matter of 4 months, oh my God.
Canada might not be able to save face at that point.
Ooh, no way, no how. With that, Nick, from all things with Team USA to the very much controversial hydration break windows, but of course, responding to heavy operational demands from advertisers to monetize soccer without breaking the flow of gameplay, Fox has now successfully implemented a side-by-side commercial layout during mandatory World Cup hydration breaks. The move allows the network to cash in on high-value ad slots while keeping the stadium atmosphere and tactical huddles live on screen after getting punched in the face by Telemundo, who says we don't break tradition to show commercials during a hydration break. Nick, soccer purists like yours truly over in San Diego usually hate on-screen ad intrusion, but is the side-by-side split screen during mandatory water breaks a fair compromise to keep broadcast networks profitable without interrupting the game action, even if they are at a break for water?
By the way, before I do that, positive comment here. Love the show. By the way, New York Times always uses Miss and Mr. as part of their style guide.
No, I appreciate that very much.
I did not know that. Thank you very much. I did not know that.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you.
I'll go back to what I just played before.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to claim... I read a story yesterday that they claim that they're not making a lot of money off the hydration break.
I heard $250 million.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, like, give me a break. Like, they claim that it's just a hydration break. By the way, the side-by-side commercials, they screwed up originally at the beginning of the tournament. They missed game action.
At the very first game, exactly. By the way, I don't mean to interject, but I just got a funny text from one of my former colleagues at Point Loma Nazarene, Parker Templin. He's a Carolina Hurricanes fan. He just wrote to me about that Alex Tuck trade by the Capitals. The Caps win one cup, one in caps, and suddenly the entire NHL GM landscape is setting buildings on fire.
Oh, God.
That is pretty funny.
But this whole hydration break thing, they should have just did a sponsored back to studio segment. Because how long is a hydration break? Is it 5 minutes?
3 minutes. So every time that you see a +3 only for stoppage time, it's to make up that 3 minutes that they missed for the water break.
Just go back to the studio for 3 minutes. Stop with the commercials. Please. You guys, FIFA makes more than enough money. Like, this is laughable to me now. I just don't understand. Like,
I mean, the only problem I'll say, and I hate to sound like that guy of get off my lawn or yell at the clouds today when there's no clouds in the sky in Southern California today like there has been every summer. But I hate to say it, as the soccer purist on this network, away, with myself and Trevor, This isn't how you go about the game by Americanizing the product by splitting the game into 4 quarters.
Right. No, I get that. They should just do that instead of playing 2 halves, in my opinion. And then at the end of every quarter, you could just have a break at the end of every quarter, and that would be where the water breaks, I guess technically could be. I don't know, man. I feel like everyone's making a big deal out of this, and they should just go back to the studio for 3 minutes.
Or
That's
something else. I mean, like, do like a game break, especially now that you've got 24 games in 4 days, and you've got games right now in the same window as your game that's going on. Again, we literally have the Swiss playing Canada. They're in minute 39. Bosnia playing Qatar. They're in minute 39. Why not go and give a live look in if you have to the other game that's going on the other station while you've got a break in the action?
Right, instead of going to commercials or whatnot. But I don't know. I feel like they made this a story for no reason. It's a freaking hydration break, for crying out loud. Like, I don't understand what we're doing here.
And it's, I couldn't agree more. And with that in mind, picture in picture. I mean, the NFL does that occasionally. Baseball does that occasionally, but still.
Well, that's what they're trying to do now at the World Cup. They're trying to do picture in picture, but it looks awkward because on the other side of the screen, it's an empty field, basically. Right. So it's not like the NFL where there's constantly something going on the other side, even though I think the NFL F's it up really bad because sometimes they'll be right in the middle of a play when the side-by-side goes off. You have more control in a soccer game because you know where the stoppages are.
For sure. With that, Nick, we'll stay in soccer, though, and yet again, Landon Donovan back in the news, though, but maybe for a good way, though. The Team USA legend, speaking directly with Front Office Sports, legendary former Team USA captain Landon Donovan has now expressed severe anxieties over the financial and cultural direction of the youth soccer pipeline in America. LD warned that the hyper-expensive pay-to-play academy model and toxic parental pressures are systematically freezing out diverse talent and burning kids out before they can reach the pro ranks, mainly due to the fact that Landon saw his son be moved off of a upper tier 8U team in San Diego, where Landon and his family now live, and in a way, he's no longer able to play with his friends, and that was literally what his son had told Landon and his wife, that he wanted to play with his friends more than anything else. But with that in mind, though, Nick, Landon has an unmatched perspective, though, on the American game. But if the nation's greatest soccer icon thinks that the youth development system is broken and also only for an exclusive tier of people, can the U.S. Soccer Federation actually fix it while academy clubs are making millions of dollars just based off sign-up fees for their clubs?
I mean, this sounds like the dumb argument of, well, if you have money, you could do a lot more things as something else. By the way,
Well, Qatar on the board finally as they cut the lead in half for Bosnia 2-1. Bosnia now leads Qatar. 42nd minute while the Swiss and Canada remain 0-0. My goodness.
But to get back, he is partially right. Like, when you live in a rich, or you're part of the rich demographic, you can do things in a exclusive club over the average working class person. No insult, by the way. Just pointing out that he's right, that sometimes people with money and power act differently than other people do. Now, all these negative things, whether it's slurs or reactions to stuff, it shouldn't happen. Not going to give full names and stuff, but like I go and watch my nephew and my niece play youth soccer.
Right.
You should see how some of these parents react.
Oh, it's awful.
And like, I turn to my mom because I'll go with her, we'll sit and watch my niece and nephew play. And I'm like, are these parents serious? Like, they're treating it like it's professional soccer.
Nick, why do you think I'm sitting in my home studio today doing the show with you when usually I'm working over the summer for Little League Baseball every summer?
Oh, yeah. You and I have talked about that a lot. Yeah.
There were issues that popped up last year and this year that, Nick, I wrote a Substack about this, that parents have killed youth sports, and it's only getting worse from here with where things stand. And when Landon says, though, Nick, that he has to go console his son who's crying in his bedroom in the evening before he goes to bed, that I literally can't like play now with my friends. And that's all I care about. Again, this is an 8-year-old kid, folks. So don't give me any, crocodile tears or what have you. That, this is, a young kid, Nick, who, again, all he wants to do is just play the game of soccer with his friends. But because of, again, parental power, money being a factor, that this is why we're losing the youth sports pipeline right now, and why kids are quitting sports at a higher rate right now because of stuff like this happening. And Nick, you make a very good point. There's a noticeable trend here where I live in San Diego. Youth soccer and youth hockey are only played in the county. There's nowhere really in the city that really has that spot. If you want to go talk about legacy franchises when it comes to youth soccer, the San Diego Surf, they play in Del Mar. The Del Mar Sharks, they're in Del Mar. That's not really in San Diego. It's up north from where I live. Like for youth hockey, you've got to go to Poway, La Mesa, Chula Vista, Escondido, where I work every summer. That there's nothing conveniently located where you can play. And we had a great club here for a long, long time called the San Diego Nomads. They lost their home field at Hickman Field near my house, and they have dissolved the club. And they were around for like 30, 40, 50 years. They were like the very first big club that played here in town. But everything, though, Nick, is just so far away, as you said, where more of the rich community lives in the rural parts of your county, and you've got to go and make that hike, up north, down south, out east, to play the game at some kind of high level. And this is also why, Nick, I think that American soccer has struggled for so long, even dating back to 94 when we had the World Cup come here, that the pay-for-play paywall model is why that the game is not as accepted, I'd say, by the American sports population, because it's so damn expensive to play the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I told you, like, parents are crazy when it comes to youth sports.
Absurd. They're absurd.
Like and I'm not going to say what you told me because you've told me like some parents and stuff, but just off the basis factor that some of the things you told me are absurd. Like that the way parents act about the only thing I can say is, because this is a generic comment, the walk-up music you were telling me. That you said parents were complaining over walk-up music. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, come on, man. Seriously?
Because didn't you say like they were supposed to submit their walk-up music like a week or two before, and some parents would wait until like they were there on the field to say like, this is the song I actually wanted?
Yes.
Like, holy crap. Like, and because you didn't get what I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm going to bitch and moan. Like,
I sat through that garbage for 3 days and then finally said, I'm out of here. I'm done.
Like, come on, man. That's not right. Like, first of all, as the parent, you're supposed to encourage positive behavior when you play youth sports. Not, I'm more important to my kid and I need to make an ass out of myself to make my kid not want to play youth sports anymore. Like, what the hell is all that about? Like,
yeah, youth sports is one thing, but I think, though, Nick, that I really hope, like I said, that, and maybe that this is the case, that this World Cup having this run with Team USA, people being behind the team, being behind Team USA, that this would encourage more people to get behind the sport. And Christy is so right, though. Parents who live vicariously through their children pisses me off. And Christy, I am so glad you said that, because Nick, I wrote that in a Substack about a month ago. That before we got Ozzy, my dog was in my lap. When we were in transition from Rodney's passing our first dog to Ozzy, on Saturday mornings when I was, when we had the house empty, me and my parents would go watch my nephew play t-ball. And I wrote my experience, like, going there and just watching these, 4 to 5 year olds play baseball. And they don't know what the hell they're doing out there, except they're hitting the ball. They're having a good time with their friends.
Right.
They're so innocent.
Right.
And then it's like, but even then, like, again, from my experience, though, with the sporting world for the last 18 years, I know it's coming. And like I had written, though, that now it's like people, and parents care more about game changer stats for youth baseball. They're 12-year-old kids, for God's sakes. Like, if you really out there believe that there's going to be a Division I university giving you a scholarship at age 12, please get out of the youth sports pipeline and move on to something else. Because I have, Nick, sat through this so many times in my time playing baseball that I had a lot of teammates of mine whose parents acted in the same exact way that we're seeing right now, not to this level, but pretty damn close. And I hate this, and I hate to, be that guy, but your kids never panned out. Where'd they go? Nowhere.
Well, part of the issue is you guys talked about it on Lounge. We've talked about it. The NIL situation is going down at lower and lower and lower, where it's affecting all the way into the high school levels. Now,
we talked about how Sports Center now is signing high school basketball players to contracts.
Well, the merch stuff and all that, and I'm just like, stop. Like, these young athletes who are not even in college sports are now being pressured into finding agents and all this stuff. And I find it wild that you see agents, or you're seeing college scouts going to high schools and middle schools.
I mean, well, I'll backtrack a bit that, colleges or the pros coming to high school baseball. I lived through it. I documented about Matt Bush's life and career when he was picked by the Padres while he was in math class at Mission Bay High, and how he went down, the awful road, of the DUIs and stuff, and still won a ring though with the Rangers with his comeback in 2023. But I recall though, Nick, that when I was in high school my senior year, I had 3 teams looking at me when I was a sophomore in high school for Major League Baseball. And I had 1 college offer while I was in high school. It took my dad, who's been coaching baseball for nearly 40 plus years, to tell a scout from the Reds, don't bother talking to him when the season's over. He's going to be going into broadcasting when he plays his final game. He's done. Which wound up being the case. And for those wondering, White Sox, Brewers, Reds, Creighton University. There you go.
Wait, you had three baseball offers? Major League Baseball offers?
I had 3 local scouts who were watching me play, and here's a cool story. So Corey Oswalt, who you may have heard from or heard about, who played for the Mets.
Yeah.
Corey was being scouted by practically every team in Major League Baseball. So we played them at our home field my senior year. So you had Corey, you had me, and our starting shortstop, Daniel Arellano, all getting looked at. I kid you not, behind home plate, Nick, because Corey was on the mound that day. We must have had 3/4 of scouts from every team in Major League Baseball watching the 3 of us play this game. We only lost like 3-0 or 3-1 or 4-1. But I mean, he struck out like 15 hitters that day. He struck me out 3 different times. Because I mean, he was throwing 95, 97 miles an hour as a senior in high school. But then again, he was like 6'8", 6'9", whatnot. And Daniel threw well and whatnot. But I mean, that was kind of like the real like eye-opening moment for me. Like, oh my God, this is bonkers having this many people watching this game, especially from all these Major League scouts being there. Like, the Blue Jays were there, the Yankees were there, the Mets were there, Padres were there, the Dodgers showed up, Angels showed up, you name it.
But you said the 3 teams, you knew which teams were there to see you, though?
The only really one who was really, really serious was the Chicago White Sox.
And you knew that going in?
I knew that because the area scout had also looked at my brother when he was in high school about 20 years beforehand.
Dang. Wow. It's kind of nuts, though. But I'm saying the NIL is causing a trickle down.
Oh, big time. It absolutely is. And that went to the whole thing about, Sports Center launching that merchandise, those merch lines with those 2 basketball prospects. Like, all right, we're losing the plot here big time.
Yeah, I mean, it's causing a problem, and it's really something. All right, before we get to the top of the hour, I want to do one quick story because we already mentioned it.
Yes.
And now there's a former San Francisco Giants player who has basically been thrown out of the Giants circle. And I think you know which one I'm hopefully talking about because he's very loudmouthed. But let's take a listen to, because we played this yesterday. Well, you and I were discussing it. This is Buster Posey discussing the whole San Francisco Giants Pride Night hats, and you and I took some umbrage against Mr. Posey here. So let's take a listen.
Did you object to those nights when you were a player? And also, did you or anyone from the organization talk to Tony, talk to the players, and explain the importance of this demographic to your business, the importance of this evening for the fans?
I mentioned that I'm not going to revisit it. So if you want to ask baseball questions, I'll answer baseball questions.
Do you plan to reach out to the gay community about any of this or no?
Again, if you want to go baseball questions, I made my statement on it. I'll answer baseball questions.
But you have no response to the commissioner saying inadequate and unclear communication?
I'll answer baseball questions.
Is that respect?
I believe so, yeah.
Buster, why do you want to only answer baseball questions? There are some very important matters that the public is debating outside this organization.
I'm going to answer baseball questions.
Do you feel it's not your job as president of baseball operations? I mean, is this something we should be talking to Larry about?
Guys, we just need to keep it baseball related or...
Well, you guys have made this baseball related because you had Pride Night. You allowed players onto the field that MLB said should not have had writing on their caps, violated MLB rules. Then MLB said that you guys didn't communicate with the players properly, that they didn't have to wear the hat. So there's been no response about that.
We get it. Buster made his statement. If you guys have any baseball questions, he can answer those.
Go ahead.
So again, folks, that was Buster Posey in the pregame media availability to the San Francisco Bay Area media before their game on Tuesday, or over the weekend, in wake of the limelight of the three Giant players who again had written biblical verses on their hats as part of the Pride Night festivities. Where again, the Giants, much like the Dodgers, have worn a Pride logo hat over the course of the last 5 years, dating back to 2021. There's been a lot of mixed reaction regarding the fact of these letters written by Senator Josh Haley towards to Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, where, again, the commissioner reiterated again that there is a longstanding zero-tolerance policy, that he cannot write any sort of message, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, on the uniform in wake of the uniform policy. Of course, that, again, Nick, has blown up, though, where I think I may have mentioned on the lounge on Sunday or recently that here, though, Nick, the San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers, two teams I don't like as a baseball fan because they play in my division. But I give them the props for being trailblazing organizations. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, that the Giants have always long honored Negro League history with the San Francisco Seals. The Dodgers have long been an advocate about black athletes, making female hires. Again, they signed Jackie Robinson. They now have a permanent display of two openly gay players who played for the Dodgers now on display at the Ravine up in LA. And I think, though, Nick, that look, by the way, from Buster Posey is a telltale sign about how bad the whole year has been. I don't want to like deflect away from Buster's voice tone or his mannerism. But it looks like, though, Nick, much like that damn hiring of that manager, it looks like it's two guys way in over their head with their new role for what's been a bad season, marred by nonstop controversy involving teammates having spats with each other. Tony Vitello saying, I can't police this locker room like I can when I was in college. I've lost the locker room. The veterans are walking all over me. Then, Nick, you add on top of that layer this controversy. Recently, Rafael Devers being a complete a-hole again when it comes to, again, blowing off a pinch runner. He made some stupid-ass apology, to Tony Vitello. And the record is what it is, though, Nick.
Well, then he dissed the media.
Then he dissed the media again, as he's long been doing, though, since he's gone to San Francisco. And also the rumors of every big contract, Nick, being dumped by the Giants to free up the salary with where it's been for a bad season. But again, Nick, I'm not here to, say that, what's right, what's wrong here again. I get it, though. Yes, we're kind of in a way, hey, freedom of speech, you can do this, do that. But you also have to remember the rules, though, the law, though, that he cannot mock or write up and doctor up the uniform in any capacity. I mean, even if you wrote like, "Hi, Mom, I love you" on your hat, that's a damn violation of the rule, though. And yes, I get it that we're in a very slippery slope time when this month rolls around, Nick, about how do teams go about celebrating a Pride Night where we had a baseball team forfeit a game because they couldn't field the roster because so many players did not feel compelled to wear the uniform. I know there was some big controversy, Nick, involving Britta Curl Salami during the course of the Olympic Games for Team USA, who has been a very outspoken hockey player in the PWHL, voicing her displeasure about trans athletes being in sports and stuff of that nature. I mean, look, we should not silence anyone for their opinions on things, but there's a right way and wrong way to go about it. I don't think biblical verses on a Pride Night are the right way to go about how you express your faith.
So I want to point out one thing, and I just found an account that found something interesting from last season. Clayton Kershaw on his Pride hat.
He also wrote a verse, but was not penalized for it, or was not warned, like has been the case with the Giants.
So is there a little hypocrisy going on here? Because is it, it's the Dodgers, we're not going to do anything to them?
I mean, it could be, but also, I mean, the other problem I have, though, Nick, and I don't have the data in front of me, San Francisco, Nick, is like the birthplace of gay culture in this state.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they literally honor, and I don't know if you know a gentleman named Harvey Milk, who was the first gay senator who was murdered. They honor Harvey Milk Day every year up in the Bay Area.
Oh,
So
I know about it. Yeah.
So in a way, just in a way,
yeah,
it feels like one of these to the entire gay population of all of Northern California when you have this stuff happening. And I'm also, Nick, I think I'm glad, though, too, that those writers, which I think was led by Susan Slusser, that they kept pressing the issue on this whole thing and that they're not going to let it go away.
Well, here's the problem I have with that. I don't even know what to call that. It's not a press conference because they're not in a press room. I guess, where were they sitting? In the dugout?
They were in the dugout. And this is kind of standard practice, though, that they always have a pregame presser every press scrum in the dugout. You know, Craig Stammen does one before every game in the Padre dugout or what have you. Exactly.
But to keep saying, and this drives me crazy when a controversy happens and a manager just says,
keep it about the game. Keep it about the game. Keep it about the game.
Like, that's making it, first of all, that's making it worse, depending on what the controversy is. Because it also makes it sound like the person is guilty of committing a crime.
Yeah, it's like Bill Belichick saying Seattle, Cincinnati, Seattle, Cincinnati, Seattle, Cincinnati.
Well, that one has to do more about football because he doesn't want to answer the questions. So he'll just say, we're off to the next game. But when they keep saying it has, Posey keeps saying, who's now the GM of the Giants, which is not doing himself a service, considering he was one of the more loved players in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Part of the 3 World Series run in San Francisco.
For sure.
To say, I'll only take baseball questions. Here's the problem, Buster. Rob Manfred made it a baseball problem.
U.S. senators have made it a baseball problem.
Well, put Josh Hawley to the side for a second. But Rob Manfred made it a baseball problem by responding and saying, if I have it right here, in a letter to Republican Senator Josh Hawley, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred said the Giants did not properly inform their players that they could opt out of wearing rainbow hats on Pride Night.
Blake Treinen did opt out and wore the regular Dodger hat when they had their Pride Night game versus the Angels a couple weeks ago.
Okay, but as soon as he said that, he made it a baseball issue.
Precisely.
So for Buster and for the dumb PR person, which we've seen, look what happened to the Fever and the Pacers. We just had
Scott Agnes from Fieldhouse Files on Substack.
So, first of all, PR, I could go be a better PR person than half these people are.
You and me both could be better PR agents.
Between you and I guess the 270 plus people, which, by the way, thank you. I've thought about going back to school to learn how to do PR as a job. Because number one, I'm not going to stop every restrictive comment. That might not get me a job in the PR space.
But still.
But I'm not going to instantly jump in just because a question is controversial. That's not how I would act as a PR person.
Nick, I have an example. Now, you might know I'm a very big junkie about jerseys, hats, memorabilia, collecting
So
stuff.
am I. Yeah.
So take a look at this hat from 1997.
Oh,
or at least-
California Angels.
Well, it's the old school Anaheim Angels hat. What we're getting at, folks, is that if I was to wear this hat as a player, or wear an Angels hat, or any baseball team's hat, and I went as far as writing Nick Einenhart and Tyler Skaggs' initials on the bill of the hat, that would be a violation of the rule that we're talking about here.
I do think there are special circumstances, like if you get permission by Major League Baseball, depending, like if it's like a family member passing away,
which I believe we saw before we get back to the last hour. I think we saw that with the Blue Jays and Dodgers last season, where both teams rallied around Alex Vesia, who's a San Diego native, when him and his wife lost their daughter after childbirth.
So there's circumstances where it's allowed. But Rob Manfred made this a baseball issue.
Precisely, he did.
By responding to Holly. If he didn't respond to Holly and let it go, which he would have gotten crucified whether he responded or not.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Then it would have just been a public issue, not a baseball issue.
If only they sold Coors Light at Petco tonight when I go to the Potter game versus the Braves, I'd have one for Andres Contour. But Switzerland, in the opening minute of the second half, now leads Canada 1-0.
All right, so maybe that won't happen after all that. Long story short, Rob Manfred made this a baseball issue. So yes, Buster, you need to respond. It is a baseball issue. Long story short. But before we hit the top, well, we did hit the top of the hour, but before we get into hour 3, sports moves fast, and we're here to keep you ahead of the chains. Join Nick DiMartino and Johnny Montalbano for Moving the Goalposts every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We cover the full spectrum of the Big Four, from the gridiron and the diamond to the court and the ice, where we're analyzing the NBA playoff bracket, well, which just ended, discussing a major coaching shakeup in the NHL, or recapping a legendary finish on the golf course. We bring you unique perspectives and a touch of humor. Don't just watch the games. Understand the moves that change them. Only on the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Moving the Goalposts will air Friday at noon Eastern time this week. Nick DiMartino and Tom Albano will have you for the next edition of Moving the Goalposts, so don't miss it.
Tom being the Iron Man of the network this week, after I was the Iron Man a couple weeks ago.
Well, I mean, his school year just ended, so he'll be around a lot more now.
All right, Nick, hour 3, we revisit UFC Freedom 250, but following the historic Freedom fight card from the White House, promotional President Dana White faced intense media grilling regarding the conduct of fighter Josh Hokett. White was asked point blank if he regretted placing Hokett on the prestigious card after the fighter made disgusting and highly controversial remarks targeting former First Lady Michelle Obama during his post-fight media scrum inside the octagon. Nick, the UFC secured unprecedented political prestige by running an event on the White House lawn, but does White's typical free speech defense hold up when a fighter uses that exact government platform to launch a verbal tirade and personal attack against a former First Family member like Obama?
This is ridiculous. And I was watching the full card when this happened. Josh Hokett needs to be cut by the UFC. No ifs, ands, or buts. Zambando, who one of our UFC guys, obviously, because we were watching the card, he said this is not acceptable behavior. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, neutral, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not acceptable behavior, and you got to take the consequences when they happen. But like, we got on Brandon Sorsby for the gambling issues and betting on his own team, and now he's ineligible, and the supplemental draft is nowhere to be found. Hokett needs to be disciplined and cut.
Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, though, but wasn't Hokett the former WWE wrestler who became a UFC fighter? Am I thinking of somebody else?
He was. I thought he was a WWE wrestler. He's not. He was a former. Actually, he was on an NFL practice squad.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, I mean, look, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's part of the reason why I don't really watch UFC or MMA, sadly, because of like the persona that these athletes sometimes can carry. And I get it that a lot of times combat sport athletes come from bad neighborhoods and broken homes. They have to fight for their survival on the streets of New York or LA or wherever they're from. But I mean, come on now. You're on the biggest stage, though, of a UFC fight card. On the White House lawn. You've got the president there. I get it. But that's not the place to push some kind of agenda about a former president's wife from, the last 3 or 4 presidents that we've had in this country.
Yeah, there's no place for it. It's unacceptable behavior. And Dana White, who usually is very freedom of speech, letting the fighters be.
Even he couldn't stand for this crap.
He came out and said, look, I actually have a friendly relationship with Obama, even though I'm a Republican and I support Trump and we're friends and whatever. But he actually said that he's got a really good relationship with Obama, and he even said it was unacceptable. He said, you want to be freedom of speech, fine, do whatever you want, but don't go that far. That's kind of crossing the line a little bit when it comes to the event. You had it on the White House. There was going to be political tensions that were connected to the event. We all knew that already. But this is Josh Hockett in a nutshell. He can't control his mouth, but that's a lot of UFC athletes.
Yeah, not like I would know anyway, but still.
Look, I don't know if you ever heard of Colby Covington before, but
borderline, yes.
Colby Covington was a Trump sycophant for a long time. Every time he would come out, he would wear the red MAGA hat at every event. And if he won, he would put it back on right after he won the event. Then all of a sudden he flipped and he no longer supports Trump anymore.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where UFC athletes is very unfortunately routed. I'm not going to say they support politics, but they're routed in politics.
They're rooted in the culture in some capacity, and that might be, me being off base because I don't watch the product, but
no, you're actually pretty spot on. It's kind of rooted in politics, unfortunately, because of Dana White, who's friends with Trump, and has gone to the White House dinner where we unfortunately had to talk about that. It was almost a shooting. Well, there was a shooting involved, but I think the UFC is too roundabout in the political realms where when they win a fight, support of the people, support of whatever president, just make it about the sport. How many times have we said on here, can we stop rooting in politics and just focus on the sports?
Yeah, exactly. And nothing really ever good comes out, with it. And Christie's right that a lot of the fighters are, in fact, very conservative. I mean, I get it. Again, I don't really care who you vote for, what you do, go and make your voice heard out there and what have you. But but just not, though, in the way where you've got, 17 million people watching and you're, maybe in a way that you're watching this, can we, I really hope nothing happens politically with this whole thing. And, I think Zan talked about the frauded terrorist attack plot that was snuffed out by the FBI the day of the fight card, what have you. But that's the one time, Nick, where you're hoping and praying that nothing comes out of it when it comes to political thoughts being shared. And yet we couldn't go, a couple fights without it happening?
No. And by the way, TMZ, and for a change, they actually did a decent story. They put a story out about Dana White explains why UFC doesn't do Pride nights. And I actually understand this slightly. And they said they're focused on fighting, not sexuality of fighters.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty, that's not a bad response to the question.
I think it might be the PC answer, but I think, though, that he's right.
I think he's just trying to say, let's focus on the game, the sport, and not do what some of the other sports are doing where they're putting way more attention on it, and then it takes focus away from the sport. I'm all for supporting. All the sports should support, but you have to make it where it doesn't bog down the spotlight of the game itself. So Hogan needs to be cut. You can't make those comments. And Zan and I discussed this, that when Dana White is mad at you for a freedom of speech comment,
you
effed up. You effed up in the worst way possible if Dana White is coming after you. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, let's move on now that we can get to the other weird story connected to this slightly. So
yeah, this is interesting.
So Dan Hurley pitches historic Yukon Duke showdown at the White House after UFC Freedom 250. Inspired directly by the logical success of UFC Freedom 250, Yukon men's basketball coach Dan Hurley utilized his championship visit to the White House to pitch a wild concept. Hurley publicly advocated for hosting a regular season primetime college basketball blockbuster between Yukon and Duke outdoors on the White House property, leaning into hyper-unique event scheduling. Running a cage fight on the South Lawn is one thing. Variables at the White House feels like a massive reach. Is Hurley just riding a PR wave, or could this actually happen?
I think it's a PR wave, Nick. There's no way that you can play, especially on the East Coast, Nick. You can't play a basketball game in November or December outdoors because of either the snow, the rain, the wind, what have you. And then if you do, you're going to run the risk of players getting injured on that floor, sadly, if that does happen.
I mean, look what happened with the UFC Freedom 250 card. They had to delay it it was supposed to be an hour, but the delay only lasted 20 to 30 minutes. And knock on wood, which I don't have any around here, but knock on something, that they were able to get the card off, and it didn't rain that night, which it was supposed to pour.
Right.
The card they said it was going to get rained out. That's how much rain they were expecting, and it didn't happen. Now, we know Dan Hurley is a little bit of a wacko when it comes to free speech, no pun intended. Now, do I really think now we've seen outdoor college basketball games before.
Oh yeah, but they've been held though in San Diego where it doesn't rain. Like again, I made the mention of the aircraft carrier games on the USS Abraham Lincoln or the USS Midway, USD playing SDSU at Petco Park, in front of like 30,000 people. Like it's been done before, but you've got to have the right place to do so where the weather won't be a factor.
But here's the other issue too. This is not like a UFC cage where you just build around the octagon and that's
Right.
it. You have to build a full court. How are you doing that on the White House property? You're not. Now, don't put that past Trump in the White House because they'll find a way to do it. But I don't know, man. It's just I think this is a pipe dream waiting to happen, and Dan Hurley should worry about winning another national championship and not playing at the freaking White House. I mean, we're already seeing that they want to play games on Amazon Prime exclusively. We talked about the whole controversy of that situation. Who has the rights to those games, right? I mean,
right.
Who would have the right to that game if it was played at the White House?
Oh,
that's a whole nother problem.
I'd say maybe ESPN.
Well, the conference is who would have the right to the game to make that choice. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, if Duke's the home team, I think it'd be ESPN because they have the rights to the ACC.
Well, I don't know what to say at this point, to be honest. But
I don't think this would work though, because again, we're talking about there being issues when it comes down and boils down to potentially the weather being a factor.
This is a PR nightmare. I'm going to answer the question too. This is PR nightmare. I don't see this happening.
Yeah, no way, no how. With that, Nick, we'll move on here to all things Netflix video podcast engagement numbers going down the tubes. Despite dumping significant capital into building out video podcast capabilities to rival Spotify and YouTube, streaming giant Netflix is hitting a massive wall with industry executives and insiders confirming that internal engagement metrics for Netflix's video podcast are remarkably low, raising major question marks about whether subscribers view the platform as a interactive talk show hub. Netflix, Nick, may have mastered premium episode streaming, but does this slump though prove that audiences simply don't go to an entertainment app to sit down and watch two people speak into microphones for sports talk?
You and I, you and I were way ahead of this a long time ago, where we had said this is a horrible idea. And it originally started with Spotify, then it made its way to Barstool, now iHeartMedia. They have music shows, they have entertainment shows, they have sports shows, they have news shows. Netflix is claiming that they have their own, which they do. I think they have Brian Williams now doing a what they're calling a news podcast, but it only
Make it 2-0 for the Swiss over Canada. Live table right now. The Swiss now jump Canada with 7 points right now in the live standings, with Canada falling to the second spot with still 1 game left in Group B.
Wow. By the way,
if Canada lays an egg, by the way, in this game and they get leapfrogged down to the third or fourth spot, ouch.
Cutter almost tied the game. The kick just hit the outside of the left netting.
Oh.
But get back to what I was saying. So, like, they have Brian Williams doing a podcast only on Netflix because they're not running it on audio feeds, but they're calling it a podcast. They have Pete Davidson doing a podcast. It only airs on Netflix. This is becoming a joke. Now, the other ones have audio feeds. The Barstool podcasts have audio feeds, which you can listen to for free. Spotify, The Ringer has their podcast where you can listen to the audio feeds. When you can only watch the video feeds on Netflix. To be honest, since all these shows went to Netflix, I used to watch a ton of these on YouTube.
Now you don't bother to because they're behind a damn paywall.
Well, I forgot, too, because I'm not seeing it populate on YouTube anymore. So I'm forgetting that there even is a video feed side. Ugh, what?
Nick, we have an update from The Athletic. There's been a couple of tweets circulating soccer Twitter that Team USA star Christian Pulisic may have been sold by his club over in Italy. And the landing spot would have been your beloved Pigeons or New York City FC. However, AC Milan sources tell The Athletic that New York City FC is interested in a potential move for Pulisic, but was rejected by Milan today.
Wow. Did not see that one coming. It's probably a money issue.
Yes.
Probably. But like I was saying, Spotify, Ringer, Barstool, they all have audio feeds. So they're still making off their audio feeds, even though they're behind the video side is behind the paywall. I don't get the Netflix feed only. Oh, and I forgot the White House with Michael Irvin, which is such a dumb name in my opinion. But are we really that surprised that the numbers are bad behind the Netflix
not at all.
paywall? People are not going to pay to watch podcasts on Netflix. It's not going to happen. The YouTube, and I guarantee you in the next couple of years, even though Netflix paid a lot of money, we're talking about millions to Spotify and to Barstool and to iHeartMedia. Like, shoot, The Breakfast Club, which is a nationally syndicated show, is now being run live, like a simulcast on Netflix. But there is a workaround that's been happening by a lot of these Barstool, Ringer,
for sure.
iHeartMedia. Hold on. Let me finish the thought. And then you can say it. But they're now going on YouTube pages and doing commentaries.
Yeah, which
videos.
Makes no sense.
Well, it's their way around not breaking their contracts for the full stuff on Netflix. So that's allowing them to continue YouTube. These platforms need YouTube.
They do.
They can't. They're going to realize in the next 3 to 4 years that they're all going to be begging to go back to YouTube at some point. The money is good. Don't get me wrong. But is the money, this is the classic argument of, is the money outweigh the potential ad revenue you'd be getting from YouTube if you have constant roll-in, people watching?
For sure.
So that's the thing they got to figure out. And it's, so the awful announcing story says in December, Netflix and Barstool Sports inked a deal, quote, in the 8 figures, which means it's at minimum $1 million a year. It's probably more because they took Pardon My Take, which, by the way, did amazing on YouTube. They pulled that away.
Right.
Except for the small stuff they're doing. Spitting Chicklets, which you should know better than most as a hockey podcast.
Quack.
Gordon, stop quacking. Anyway. And then the Ryan Russillo show, which, but I'm just saying, look at the Spotify catalog, the amount. So Bill Simmons' show, I totally forgot that it was even on Netflix. I checked it out in the debut just because I wanted to see. There was so many errors. It was like a comedy of errors because they had no idea how to run the tech side.
Right.
Zach Lowe was an NBA guy. Todd McShay, who kind of disappeared off the scene after getting laid off by ESPN. I think The Mismatch is a soccer show. I think
sounds about right.
The Ringer F1 show, the Ringer Fantasy Football show, the NFL show, the NBA show. Are you going to remember that these things are on Netflix?
Oh, hell no.
Now, I will give these companies credit that they kept their audio free because you would have lost your audience completely if you put everything behind the Netflix wall. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick, we have an update to a story that broke earlier this morning per Rebecca Boone of The Independent. But legendary Team USA Olympic skier Bodie Miller has now entered a not guilty plea to misdemeanor charges for possessing mushrooms and drug paraphernalia after being arrested in Idaho earlier in the week. Miller, known for a high-risk racing style, earned 6 Olympic medals and 33 World Cup victories and multiple World Championship titles, has not competed, though, or won a race since 2015. This included him and his wife going on the Today Show to discuss the condition and also about some other stuff involving the family. Idaho does have strict drug laws, but states like Colorado and Oregon allow mushrooms for therapy, but the FDA is with the FDA accelerating research into using psychedelics for mental health conditions.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
I totally forgot about that, too, by the way. By the way, have you noticed over the last 5 years or 5 to 7 years, we've seen Olympic athletes have serious legal issues?
Shaun White had his. Ryan Lochte had his. Michael Phelps had his.
Who was the athlete that got caught up in the FBI international scandal? Do you remember we talked about that?
Oh, that was a Canadian snowboarder who was like #1 most wanted for like drugs and human trafficking.
And I think he was at the Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, when they caught him.
So, yeah.
I mean, I know it's a lot of pressure to compete, but really, like being like in the top 5 in the FBI's most wanted, like Jesus, like
yikes.
I don't know, man. Just like you gotta get your shit together. Like I know it's tough when you can't compete anymore in the Olympics. Like you lose part of your life. Like Zan just brought it up, even though he's on vacation. Look what happened to Dustin Poirier. What's going on?
Oh,
with
yeah.
him? You know, in the UFC, he retired, and now he had a public, drunken public situation go down to the point where he got arrested.
Yeah,
and he was on Rogan's podcast saying, like, I don't know what to do with my career now that I'm. Well, go be a broadcaster. Go do a podcast. You definitely. I guarantee you, he has enough following where he could go. You know what? You know what the problem is with former athletes, and I'm not saying this to be mean. When they retire, they've made all this money, UFC included.
They don't know what to do with. They don't know what to do with themselves.
They don't know what to do with themselves until someone gets in their ear and says, "Talk about your experiences. Go be a broadcaster." A lot of the UFC broadcast now has like 3 or 4 former UFC guys. One, I can't remember the guy from Long Island. It's slipping me at the moment, but I met him, and he actually went to National Community College. That's how he started. So I got to meet him when he came back after he won a huge UFC battle. But go do something with your life, even if it's not broadcasting. Go do charity.
Go be a coach. Go be a trainer.
Or go do charity. Do something that's not going to get you in trouble.
Yeah. All right, Nick, we'll move on here for our final segment here before we get to press clippings on the afternoon. But Nick, media veteran Max Kellerman has now leveled major accusations against national basketball pundits regarding their coverage of Spurs star Victor Wembanyama. Kellerman argued that the media has spent the last year building the young star up to an impossible standard solely so they could weaponize the inevitable narrative arc of aggressively tearing him down for clicks the moment he begins to struggle. Nick, Kellerman is calling out the built-in hypocrisy of daily studio talk shows, but is the cycle of hyper hype followed by immediate takedowns completely inescapable in the modern-day digital content ecosystem of sports media?
Yeah, part of my thoughts on this already. Like we just had a clip out from our last
Correct.
episode of Press
Yes.
Row where we were trashing Skip Bayless for basically, well, he manufactures every take he makes, but and Adam Shine basically calling Wemby dirty and whatever. I don't like it. Like when a team gets kicked after they're down, and you have to make those comments. Wemby is an aggressive player, no doubt. Okay, but why do you have to go on the air when you? Because both those guys have platforms. Why do you have to insult the guy after they lost the series? You want to say they didn't play well? Yeah, that's fine. You want to say they lost the series because the Knicks were better? They were better.
Yes.
But don't get personal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, Nick, this is just built in, though, to the sports culture that we love to put athletes on pedestals, and we love to build them up and then tear them down the minute that they do something wrong or they lose a game, they lose a series. I've seen that more often here in San Diego with the Padres, that people will build up Tatis Jr. and Machado when they have, they're running great, and then once they start sucking, they'll tear them all down. And that's been the case this whole entire season. It's been that way for the last 6 years, if not longer. That, hey, we're doing great. Oh, as soon as they go 0 for 4 and strike out 4 times, oh, this guy sucks, trade them. And that's, I think, the problem, though, that we've also had. I don't think this would go with my thoughts from the first episode of Cranium about this being hot take culture in a way, but it's more about, I think, that there's just been a long propensity in the media industry that we love to build up a team or build up an athlete, and the instant that they don't win a game or they don't win the championship or they don't do this, they don't do that, you begin to tear down that player just for whatever it might be across the board.
I think we've gotten to a spot in sports media or sports digital media culture where you've talked about the hot take, I've talked about the hot take, where I feel like sometimes people don't believe half the crap that comes out of their mouth.
Oh, no.
Sometimes, and they say it because they know it's going to get 100,000 views or 1 million views or impressions on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. And sometimes, and then I think people realize afterwards, oh my God, did I say that? Yeah, you're the idiot who said it. Like,
it's a lot like, Nick, when you go out to the bar, you have a few drinks and it turns into that, and then you start spewing drunken stuff, and then you wake up the next morning with a hell of a hangover. They're like, oh, I actually did this? So I actually said that to a female co-host on this network? Like, what am I doing here?
Right. I mean, the one thing I will say is I have a lot of respect for Adam Shine, so I don't hold it to bear as much on him. I think he was a Knicks fan, so I think he was...
Yeah, and then that's par for the course when your team beats somebody else's team.
The Skip Bayless thing... And the full mention was not made in that clip because I didn't have enough time to put it into that clip. But like Rick Bucher, who was a former FS1 colleague of Skip Bayless, called him out and said, dude, like, stop. Like, enough with the manufacturing of takes. Like, actually have an intelligent thought and stop with the manufacturing of the takes because you sound like a moron. Like, it's just one of those things where you have to say to yourself, all right, I need to pick people that I can trust listening to. And for the 99.9% of the time, I can trust Adam Shine. I listen every single day. I just think the way he approached that was a little aggressive, a little bit calling him dirty and whatever, but that's neither here nor there.
What do we got?
So this is a little bit of an awkward story that has to do with the NBA draft, the coverage last night. But it doesn't have to do with the players.
Okay.
It has to do with ESPN.
Is it the whole Richard Jefferson ordeal that happened last night?
So 36 minutes ago for Front Office Sport, this is exclusive, by the way. ESPN's Jay Williams says his NBA draft interaction with Richard Jefferson and Kenny Smith was, quote, extremely uncomfortable. Williams says the interaction regarding a motorcycle accident that ended Williams' career had no real tension, but was awkward.
Yeah, why are you even bringing that up in the first place when it's about the guys getting drafted, not about what you all did in your careers?
And I don't believe this when Jay Williams said it, but he said there's no ill will. Come on, dude. You're really gonna believe that there's no ill will? Jay Williams wants the NBA draft to be about the incoming rookies.
Yes.
But an uncomfortable interaction between him and Richard Jefferson and Kenny Smith became the story on Tuesday night, which, you know what, guys? Like, if we're going to make this about former incidents and former off-the-court scenarios, like, go check yourself at the door. The NBA draft is supposed to be about the guys that are coming in, not about former off-the-court scenarios that led to Jay Williams' career being over. It's stupid. Like, why did you have to bring that up? There was no reason to bring that up. That was stupid. It was incredibly stupid. And I don't care what the excuse was for why you chose to bring the story up. But what is the NBA draft supposed to be about? It's supposed to be about the young guys coming out of college who are starting their NBA careers.
Yeah, again, why are y'all sitting around sitting down or around the campfire? Now, I get it. Was that during a lull in the draft where a team was on the clock? They had no filler content, which they should have some sort of B-roll or some kind of homework done by these analysts to actually break down who's on the board still and, who's on the clock or whatnot. And then you have to go and revert to personal stories involving a mishap with Jay Williams having a motorcycle accident. Like, what is that accomplishing here?
Here's the problem. So the telecast showed Jay Williams getting drafted because they were showing like some classic moments like of guys who were part of the ESPN broadcast. Like on SportsCenter when SVP, they showed Shumpert getting drafted.
Yes.
Right? So Williams was drafted by the Bulls in 2002. Host Kevin Nagandi asked, why such a big ovation? I think that was a joke.
Yes.
For Williams, when he was selected second overall, Jefferson joked that the fans were cheering because they, quote, didn't see the future coming. And Kenny Smith added that Williams' quote, career trajectory would have been a lot different if he didn't like motorcycles.
That's not the time and place.
Like, what the hell is that?
That's not the time and place for you to be sitting back and ball washing your careers when you're taking away the moment from all these young men being drafted into the NBA.
And like I said, so Williams said, for me, it was extremely uncomfortable. He said there was no real tension, but it was awkward. Williams takes pride in the second career he's built in broadcast media over the last 2 decades as an ESPN analyst. It's about what you do after something like that happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But why are you doing that on an NBA draft telecast?
Yeah, I mean, you're literally spoiling the moment of that next draft pick while you're waiting for them to make the selection.
I don't know. I have a problem with that. Now, Richard Jefferson is more of those, more of the guy of being a little bit of a jokester at times.
And one of your favorite net players of all time.
I like him. He was incredible with the Nets, but on broadcast media, he's a little, I don't know what the word is, out there?
Well, Canada has pulled one back against Switzerland. 2-1 now the score in the 79th minute of play, trying to perhaps get a tie late to hopefully claw themselves back into that match against Switzerland. 2-1 the score now with Canada trying to survive right now up in Canada right now for the World Cup.
Man. But what do we have left here? Just to finish.
We got a reader here, actually, Nick, to promote our upcoming show for Friday. But if you're looking for that plus money edge, then join Connor Rowland and Nate Miller as they have you covered on unnecessary wagers every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time. They break down the tactical ripple effects of the weekend's biggest matchups from the underdog effect in the NBA playoffs, the emerging powerhouses on the MLB diamond. They look past the box scores to find the hidden value, whether it's the math behind a four-leg stabilizer or the chaos of a 6-leg lottery ticket, we find the trends that you need to know. Gamble Informed on UW every Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific time, right here on ETB. Make sure to go subscribe to our YouTube channel today at youtube.com/ETB Network. That is where things currently stand.
It looks like there is a comment update. Apparently, Zach, let me make sure I get this right. Zach Rosenblatt has spoken.
Go ahead.
Zach declined to comment, but the New York Times says Russini helped him broker Vrabel's cooperation on Zach's very flattening inside Mike Vrabel's year-off story before Vrabel was hired. I mean, we do have the video if we want to.
Yeah, we got some time to fill here for the next 5 minutes, so we got some time.
Let's grab this. Let's see what Mr. Rosenblatt had to say.
I was able to get connected to him. I reached out. I pitched the story idea to him, and how he did it was, I basically flew to Nashville. We met up, and he kind of sized me up. It was more it was kind of like an introductory thing for both of us because I didn't know him. He didn't know me. We had some mutual people that we were cool with, but we didn't know each other. So, I get to this bar in Nashville that he loves. His golf buddies are there with him. It's part of the story. Actually, our first meeting. And, right away,
So you had to win over the golf buddies, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, his golf buddies were characters. I had some funny stories I heard about them that I wasn't able to fit in the story. But one of the main reasons, just to pull back for a second, one of the main reasons I want to do this about him was not only is he the top coaching candidate, but I feel like there is a perception about him. Based on his press conferences, he's this linebacker, with all the rumors about him being hard to work with.
Can I call a timeout real quick, Nick? I'm kind of wondering aloud, was this during the time where Vrabel was coaching Tennessee, or was he kind of maybe in a bit of a stopgap over between his time with the Titans and then going to the Pats?
Well, the article was about Mike Vrabel's year off.
Okay.
So I'm assuming it was probably
in this window. Okay, go on.
Paint a picture of who somebody is, despite what the headlines say. That was the root of my Aaron Rodgers and Chico story. I wanted to, get in the mix and talk and find out about somebody that I didn't know anything about. And I've always done stuff like that. And I know I've become known on this beat now for those long pieces I do with Dianna, but this is kind of the root of how I've been a writer since I got into this business. It's the kind of stories I wanted to do, is show people a side of somebody that you haven't seen before. And so that was my idea. I didn't know going in, if Mike would be open to it, or if the perceptions of him are real or whatever. But anyway, so I get to this bar, the Corner Pub, the spot in Nashville. It's right near this amazing music venue called Bluebird Cafe, which is pretty cool because I've been there before. And first 30 minutes we're sitting there, he's kind of grilling me, but not in I'm interviewing, not I'm grilling you kind of way, but more getting to know me. He's asking me where I'm from, about my fiance, how I met her, who my mentor was coming up in business.
So what do you think about that?
I think I feel bad for Zach kind of getting roped into this whole thing. And I think I feel bad, Nick, for any other party involved that's getting roped in with this whole entire story because they just happen to be on the beat covering things or whatever and whatnot. I mean, I think what goes to my point, though, Nick, about Vrabel being just as guilty as Russini, you invite him out to Nashville to one of your favorite bars with the golf buddies. Is that not suspicious?
A little bit. Yeah, it sounds like why aren't you going to meetings? Because these are media meetings. What do you need the golf buddies for?
Yeah, I don't understand that notion. But we get back to the show real quick, though, Nick. One small second as I keep clicking the wrong button here. But Bosnia has regained their 2-goal edge. They now lead 3-1 over Qatar as they get to the final 10 minutes of gameplay.
Hey, we had a USA situation where the jersey got taken off.
Oh, really?
I just saw it in the replay.
Oh,
damn. You know what? Hey, if Zach's willing to speak, maybe I should find a way to see if we can get him.
Yeah, I mean, I really wonder aloud about how that whole thing played out, and I think, Nick, that it's only fair. I think that you both that I think that it's tough for you and me now to really wonder aloud, because I would say I think anyone getting roped in now at this whole thing is just like adding more fuel to the fire.
The thing is, we didn't really get a full explanation. And according to that clip, it sounded like he was declining to speak on the Russini stuff. So I don't know how far we would get.
Yeah.
But that might be
Either way,
illegal.
I still think it's wrong that he's getting roped in, and I think that part of that quote, though, about Vrabel, wants me to meet him at some bar in Nashville with his golf buddies. That's a little bit alarming.
Well, with Dianna Russini too.
Yes.
I don't know, man. This story is just
getting worse.
All right, let's move on to press clippings here. So, a lot of interesting short stories, some controversial, but let's get to Linda Cohn, the longest tenured Sports Center anchor, announcing her retirement. So this is a monumental chapter in sports broadcasting history is coming to a close. Linda Cohn, ESPN's longest tenured Sports Center anchor with over 5,000 baseline editions of Sports Center hosted, officially announced her retirement from the network effective June 30th, so about a week from now. Cohn's legendary run paved the way for generations of women in sports journalism and marks the end of ESPN's definitive flagship era of Sports Center. Cohn has been a permanent fixture of the sports fandom for decades. As she exits the building, does her retirement mark the final official end of the traditional highlight-driven Sports Center anchor era?
I mean, I think it's been gone for a while since the Big Show ended with Keith and Dan and Kenny Mayne and Rich Eisen back in the day. And I also think, Nick, that the one thing Linda Cohn did do a great job of was how she would cover the NHL back when they kind of first got the rights from Fox or what have you at that time. And even after ESPN lost the rights for all those years, we talk all the time about Levy and Melrose and, always covering the game. Linda Cohn did the same exact thing, Nick, and she's forever linked to the Mighty Ducks organization, too, for a lot of different things, though, when, they were first coming of age. So she's come to games as a fan and stuff of that caliber. I mean, again, the 5,000 episodes done. I mean, 30 years, though, at the company is just phenomenal. And I think that there is a award given out. The Jiminy Cricket status thing is given out if you're at ESPN or Disney for 30 years. I think Buccigross is getting it too. That she really was a pillar of not just Sports Center, obviously, but I also think, though, Nick, a massive pillar, though, for how ESPN covered hockey across the board too. And I wish her all the best in retirement.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, she's going to go do podcasting. I saw she has a YouTube channel already. Apparently, they couldn't come to an agreement on how to keep her going, which sounds like ESPN is horrible at keeping their veteran presence, except for Chris Berman. What? The Swami? But I don't know. I had the chance to interview her a long time ago when I was in college radio.
I bet that was incredible.
That was right around when she broke the record for 5,000 sports centers. Or not broke the record, hit the milestone of
hit the milestone,
5,000. Yeah. Because I don't think anyone is going to get to that whatsoever.
No.
First of all, think about doing 5,000 editions of Sports Center. I can't even think of that.
Imagine the day we get to 5,000 episodes of Press Row.
Holy shit. I don't even know how long that would even take.
I mean, if it's 30 years, it'd be 2056 if that happens.
Holy shit. Can't even think that far.
We'd be in our mid-60s, sir.
I can't even think that far ahead. I can't even think about next week.
I know, right? With that in mind, Nick, from that to Fox Sports' lead World Cup studio analyst Alexi Lawless continues to face unprecedented coordinated criticism across the sports media landscape as pundits, soccer journalists, and fans and digital media platforms have effectively declared open season on the U.S. men's national team great from 1994, aggressively savaging his loud, hyper-provocative purity and calling into question whether his hot take delivery harms serious domestic soccer coverage. But Nick, Lawless has always leaned, though, into playing the on-air heel or bad guy. Now the national media has turned entirely hostile towards his brand during a home World Cup. Has his style officially worn out its welcome with the public, especially with the crew that he's working with Rebecca Lowe, Thierry Henry, and, of course, Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
that got awkward when we were watching that interaction between Zlatan and Alexi Lalas. Alexi Lalas has got to calm down.
He does.
Big time. Like, and hey, this is the non-soccer guy who's paying attention to all this here. But I think he's so worried about his public perception that he's forgetting that they're covering a sport.
Let alone covering the biggest sporting event that comes around every 4 years.
You're covering a sport you played in your career, and you can't handle yourself. Stop with the politics. Stop with the political correctness. No one cares. I'm just going to say that now.
I thought what was classless was how he took that stupid pot shot about how people call it football and like, no, it's soccer. I mean, I call it both. I mean, you could be an American citizen like we are and call it both ways, whether you like it or not.
Like, why does it matter, though? That's what I'm trying to understand. Does it really matter if, like, I call it soccer, like, because that's what I was accustomed to growing up here. Like,
yeah, you call it soccer, or you can call it football, as you can call it here in Southern California, where you call it both, or you use the Spanish term of football. You go that way too.
I've jokingly, you'll hear me say, call it football sometimes because I have fun with the.
Or I jokingly call American football hand egg.
I've heard you say that before. Like, it's political correctness, dude. Like, just Alexa, you got to take it down a notch, man. Like, we know you're an expert in soccer. Just stop.
Yeah. Nick, in a shocking announcement, maybe, that sent shockwaves through the entire tennis community, Wimbledon officials confirm that legendary icon Serena Williams is back to compete in the ladies single draw as Serena accepted a prestigious wildcard invite, setting up an unprecedented, highly anticipated comeback on the historic grass courts of Wimbledon. But Nick, from a sports media and broadcast perspective, does Serena's wildcard entry instantly transform the Wimbledon into the most valuable TV property of the entire tennis summer, with her coming back for one potential last hurrah? I don't think so.
No. Is it a good story? Maybe. Is it going to bring in a lot of extra views that they didn't have? Sure. Is she a favorite? Absolutely not.
Not when you're a wild card entry. I'm guessing you have to play like a gauntlet of games to get to the final, right?
Well, you have to make it through the. Well, I should say that she's a wild card into the main draw.
Gotcha.
So she doesn't have to play the qualifiers because she's Serena Williams. They're not going to make her play the qualifiers. Will I watch the matches? Sure. But it would be a shock if she won Wimbledon. There's a lot. The competition is a lot stiffer than it was when she played. She was
in her prime. Yeah,
her and Venus were sometimes the only competitive U.S. women for decades on end.
Yeah, and then you may have had like the sprinkling of like Maria Sharapova before the PEDs came to the limelight or what have you.
I'm talking strictly U.S., but like I know what you mean. Like
just across the board at that time. Yeah,
but who else was when they were growing up? Who was really prominent on the U.S. women's side, but besides Lindsay Davenport, or I'm trying to think who else really stood out.
No one really did. Yeah, I don't think.
But now you have like Madison Keys and Coco Gauff,
Pegula, Anisimova.
Yeah, you have more names. And we just had an incident. Actually, I don't know if you saw it on the tennis side. Who was the one that got suspended? You saw that, right?
Like a 4-year ban for PEDs or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm looking this up. Actually, it might have been a Miss Nova, I think. Let's see if I can find this really fast. It was Marketa Vondrousova, who was suspended for 4 years for refusing a doping test.
Got a more harsh penalty than your boy Yannick Sinner.
So it says former Wimbledon champion Marketa Vondrousova was suspended for 4 years Monday for refusing an anti-doping test, even though the Czech player cited mental stress and fear when the testing agent, quote, rang my door late at night without properly identifying themselves.
Okay, Brendan Sorsby.
No, actually, I was going to say, okay, Ryan Braun.
Yeah, that too.
Because if you remember the Ryan Braun situation, didn't he file an appeal and say that the sample was tainted because of the way he handled it? I wouldn't say this is the same exact thing, but isn't it true that you get a random drug test
you do.
as any athlete?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is it weird to have someone now? If it was like in the middle of the night, I would partially have a problem with that because you're not expecting it.
Right.
But it's called a random drug test for a reason.
Yeah. With that in mind, Nick, last one for the day, though. Fanatics Fest has ignited massive public backlash online over the exuberant cost of athlete fan experiences, as newly leaked price sheets reveal that taking a single photo with members of the Knicks will cost fans nearly as much as a prime NBA Finals ticket. The luxury tiering requires fans to fork out over $900 for Jalen Brunson, $330 for Karl Anthony Towns, and $283 for Josh Hart and or Mikal Bridges. Nick, you've gone to this event, though, but Michael Rubin's Fanatics brand is supposed to connect fans to sports. But when a single photo op costs close to $1,000, has this event completely priced out the everyday blue-collar fan base in favor of hyper-wealthy collectors out there on the marketplace?
I mean, do I say yes or yes? It's automatically yes. I mean, this event already prices out the average fan.
Oh, Christy wants me to play the sound effect. Hang on.
What? I mean, yeah. I've been to the event the 2 years that it's been at the Javits Center in New York. I think it costs like $120 just to get in.
What? That's more expensive than the lowest tier ticket for Disneyland Park at $104.
So you have to pay an arm and a leg just to get in. Now, first of all, for $935 or $937, which I'm seeing now, just to take a picture with Jalen Brunson. Do you remember what I said to you that for that $935, I could go buy 10 autographs with that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Karl Anthony Towns, 338 to 384.
Isn't Jose Alvarado on the list too, or am I making that up?
No, you're right. I'm looking at it here. Jose Alvarado is not even a starter. 169. Yes.
World Cup update. Switzerland has defeated Canada 2-1. If Bosnia hangs on to win 3-1, Canada is going to plummet out of the top 3 in the group.
So they could get eliminated, right?
They could be knocked out because right now the Swiss now, per the table I'm seeing, it's all updating live. Switzerland 2 wins, 1 draw, 7 points. Canada right now 1-1-1 for 4. If Bosnia does win, Bosnia would leapfrog Canada. Canada would still be 3rd because Qatar's losing.
Yeah, and they're losing by 2 goals too, and they're in extra time right now. So Bosnia's about to win 3-1. It looks like.
So that would put right now Switzerland, Bosnia, Canada, Qatar.
Wow. So we might play Canada.
There's a chance. There's still, though, 3 more days of this crap to go, though, still.
But just to finish off on that point, yeah, Jose Alvarado was $169. The guy wasn't even a starter.
Yeah.
Landry Shamet, who made some big shots in the NBA Finals, not a big name by any means, $142. You kidding me?
Damn. Not like the guys need the money anyway, right?
Some of these prices, and Michael Rubin, who runs Fanatics. Oh, it's about the fans. It's about the fans. Interaction.
Quack.
Gordon, stop quacking. But to take a picture with Jalen Brunson is $935.
Yeah, that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. That is beyond inexcusable.
It's supposed to be a fan event. Okay? It's supposed to be, why can't you what's the word I'm looking for? Supplement these athletes to show up and make it a fully interactive event.
Yeah.
So that they're paid. Maybe you charge a fee just to show up because part of that goes to the athlete. But
not what you're doing here, though, with this mess.
And by the way, these prices don't include those dopey fees that you have to pay for. So the Jalen Brunson thing could be $1,000.
Oh, yeah. On top of the admission that you pay to get into the thing, and then tax and sales tax and luxury tax and whatever else you got. Yeah.
I mean, they have a ton of free things. Like I got to meet Joe Girardi and get an autograph for free. I still have that ball, by the way.
Good.
I got to do some free things. I got to take some pictures, by the way. Ironically, all the UFC stuff when you go to the Fanatics Fest
It's free.
is free. You just have to wait on the lines. That's it. So I got to take pictures with Holly Holm.
Yeah.
I got to meet Michael Chandler. Let's see. I'd love to have gone to Fanatics. What was that? I'd love to go to Fanatics Fest because I heard that a couple of my favorite WWE stars, the WWE and the UFC show out big time.
They do.
But the WWE ones are expensive a little bit.
Usually they are.
But UFC is all free. I noticed, ironically, that they will do fan meet and greets. You just have to wait. And what's cool is they put like an actual octagon in. So
Or
like
a ring. Yeah.
Oh no, this is a real octagon. Like
Yeah.
it's like an official octagon, which is kind of cool. And you get to now. I don't do the dopey thing where they turn to the fighter. That is so dopey.
The only dopey thing I did before we got out here for the afternoon was when I went to a WWE show last January. Referee Charles Robinson was out and about walking the parking lot, and I said, "Can you raise my hand?"
Oh, but that's okay.
I'm like,
That's kind of
"This is
cool.
great. And then, like, as soon as I did it, like everybody else did it. And Charles was great. I love the guy to death. He was awesome.
But the difference is the WWE family gets that they're a fan meet and greet culture.
Yes.
Same thing with the UFC. For the most part, they know that they're a fan meet and greet culture. Major League Baseball doesn't get it. NBA doesn't get it.
No.
Jalen Brunson, $935 for a freaking picture. Like,
give me a break.
I don't know, but that'll do it. Well, actually, before I say that, there should be one more. Go beyond the highlights with a personality-driven look at the games you love. Join Zan Bando for Bando's Breakdowns, airing live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, starting July 2nd. As his show goes from tape to live, Zan dives deep into the tape, focusing on bracket-busting collegiate performances, individual brilliance on the court, and the trending news that everyone else is talking about. It's a masterclass in sports commentary that prepares you for the weekend ahead with expert analysis and a point of view you won't hear anywhere else. Only on the Empty the Bench Network. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, to find out more. And as I said, his show is the last show to make it into the live sector, meaning starting July 2nd, every show on this network is live.
Yes.
No more tape crap going on this network. We are live, so you can get all the live updates.
We're doing it live, baby.
As Bill O'Reilly would say, "God damn it, we're doing it live." The funny part is when I was at ABC, I had to produce his tape show and put it on the air. So I guess you could say I was a colleague of Bill O'Reilly's for a small period of time.
O'Reilly.
Auto parts.
Ow.
But that'll do it for the show. 320 people today. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
It's very much appreciated. We will be back July 1st, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Big guest joining the show. Ray Clay, legendary Chicago Bulls PA announcer, joining the show. I think we're both looking forward to this.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be awesome.
So don't miss that. He'll be on the first hour of the show.
Correct.
Probably half an hour or so-ish. So don't miss it. That'll be live, not taped, just in case people are wondering. But that's going to be fun. But incredible show today. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Follow the show on social media at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on this show, or if it's ETB Sports or Callan's Cranium or Bando's Breakdowns, or like the 17, I counted 17 shows that we have across
Damn.
this network. So please don't miss everything we're part of. Also, coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern when we're done with the show, Tough Enough is back for the third episode.
Bring it on, baby.
Solo edition this week with Zambando on vacation. Tom Albano, as you were jokingly saying, the Albano and Bando show.
Coming soon.
But solo edition with Tom Albano is coming up in about 55 minutes or so. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss it. It's the recap for episode 3, so don't miss that. And then what do we have coming up tomorrow?
Getting from a cycle and Team USA Turkey post-match reaction.
When is the USA game? It's not going to conflict.
10 p.m.
right?
Eastern.
Oh, so it'll be way after they're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you might be getting midnight Eastern by the time that recap hits the
Fine with
airwaves.
me.
That's fine. But that'll do it. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. It's gladly appreciated. And we'll be back, like we said, with Ray Clay next week. So make sure you tune in.
July.
Holy crap. We're going to be at the halfway point of the year almost. Actually, did we pass the halfway point of the year?
Yeah. We're already in June. We're halfway there.
I say we're already halfway there. I'm just looking this up really quick. Halfway point of the year is what date? Because they always say something different. It is the halfway point of 2026. They're saying is July 2nd.
So the day before the halfway point of the year.
Yes, we're almost like exactly at the halfway point of the year when the show airs.
All righty.
But that'll do it. He's Callan McClurg. I'm Nick Morgasen. Have a good rest of the day, everybody. We'll see you next week.